Hey, before the video starts, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone who watched the first video and commented and left their support and their criticism. I never expected that video to go beyond our friend group at our New Year's party, so seeing a bunch of people find it and enjoy it or be entertained by it was pretty cool. That being said, I only really have time to work on videos between my job and any other creative projects that I'm working on currently, which is a few. I don't have any set schedule, and I don't plan on making this a full-time endeavor, nor do I ever intend on making money off of it because it's a hobby and I don't want it to turn into a job because I already have one of those. I say all of that because I really want to avoid making videos to end up being a chore and just another slog that I have to get through. Case in point, this video. Now, that's not to say that I felt obligated or I actually didn't like the idea or this video or what came of it. Doing a little bit of artistic and thematic analysis was actually pretty fun. It was just the process of actually cutting, chopping, editing, and tweaking everything that was such a slog and such a chore to get through. Okay, so it's 9 hours. Oh my god. What the fuck? It's not entirely as fleshed out as I would have wanted it to be, but I still decided to see it through and put it out there anyways. Mainly because I wanted to see what other people had to say about this because I haven't really personally seen anyone delve deep into their music and trying to analyze what it might all mean or what the appeal is. And I'm not going to say that I have all of the answers, but I would like to get this out here sort of as a primer for this topic. I do plan on getting the gang together to make a follow-up to the first video when chapter 3 of Coffin comes out. And in the meantime, I do have a few shorter, actually scripted video ideas in consideration, but again, no promises. Until then, here's a 3-hour tier list video masquerading as surface level media analysis on TV Girl. Enjoy? Fuck, I don't have my water. Oh, give me a second. Okay, here we go. Everything is as uniquely color-coded as I can get because this salmon color and this French exit color are pretty close. What is this ranking? So bad. There we go. We're gonna put a sad face to emphasize it. Bad is not good. That'd be like your F category. Annoying is just like whack. Lyrics are also factored into that. If it has a repetitive sample or something that you know what annoying is. I don't should have to explain what annoying is. So mid is just something that's like it sounds fine. Good. That's you know, it's good. There. That's good. That's good music. Great is like vibe shit. Yeah, great is vibe shit. Definitely biased, of course. This is all subjective, for better or for worse. I'm gonna stand by what I put on this. So from great, we get to beautiful. A beautiful song speaks to you, specifically, as an individual, in your soul. Fucking mint. So yeah, that's the basic outline here of what we're working with. So a song will start in its tier right here, and then from there, I will organize and move songs and flip them back and forth. I will do my best. I have my notes. I have things that I sat down and wrote. 11 sheets of notes here. Putting all my schizo ramblings into a little notepad and trying to compile them together was kind of stressful, but it shouldn't be. Because it's TV Girl. We're going to go ahead and get into it right now because this has already taken way too long to introduce. This isn't something. Sort of emotionally detached, kind of boring, low energy. It's really blasé. I don't know, that might even be like annoying. I don't like the instrumentation, and Brad's voice took a good 4 years to develop into something that you could listen to, and I won't be swayed on this. Trung carried early TV Girl. Please fight me. They're just boring. They're not really anything interesting. I'd put I Don't Care lower because Brad's voice really gets on my nerves in this song. You know what? There are some other ones. No, you know what? The sentiment is also annoying. Fuck you. We got through 2 stinkers and now we have a fucking banger. Let's go. I don't know. There's just something. It's a good sample, comes out, hits hard, you just get smacked upside your fucking head when that drum comes in. And then Trung's voice is just, oh man, lovely. Also, it's a song about fucking. Neat. Yeah, I'll say it's good. It's nice and vibrant. It feels, I don't want to say beachy. Oh wow, I didn't mean for it to end up this way, but we got a real good stratification here. Yeah, On Land is pretty nice. I like the little you got going on in the background. Keys are nice. Piano is good. Sort of heartfelt. Fleeting love. Time moving forward. Attraction for another, sucking away your attention and focus on what it is that you're doing now. And Trung, once again, lovely voice. Oh, this is going to be fun trying to workshop this and move things around. It's definitely better than It's Not Something, but just kind of whatever. Not too much energy to it. I don't know what that little jingle is in the background. It's one of those keyed instruments where it's a ball on a stick and a piece of wood or metal that you hit, and it makes a cool noise. Oh, baby, are you ready to get up and fucking dance? Let's go. Real hard shit, man. Fucking bop. Got the bass in your goddamn face. It's just energetic and poppy all in the right ways. Sample, fantastic. And, I mean, again, I can't get over that intro, just a little... Could also represent a dead relationship and comparing it to that of listening to the same song over and over again for comfort that you just don't have anymore. I don't know, just sort of boring again. You're gonna find that it's not an attention span thing, I swear. It's just, I don't know, I like something with a little more that puts a little pep in your step. It doesn't really get me moving, doesn't really get me thinking too much about it. Background harmony's cute, the guitar, really nice. Just a guy, once again, reminiscing over a past relationship and understanding that it won't be the same and having to move on. Whatever. Pretty cute, gotta say. Comes right out the gate, super energetic, super peppy, despite being about an incredibly tragic death of someone who burned themselves alive in their apartment complex. Once again, Trung really carries this as well with his beautiful, beautiful angelic voice. And it's a great way to start off a project. They're great at openers, and they're equally just as good at closers. Maybe not in their EP projects, but in their full releases, you will notice they have a knack for starting off and ending an album just with hits like a fucking artillery strike. It's better than If You Want It, only because it has a little bit more to say and isn't just about fucking. The piano is repetitive, but the just kind of it doesn't get old. I don't know why. It's just nice and catchy. The little singing in the background with the sample, also very pretty, adds to that feeling of, I don't know, maybe you're a guardian angel watching over you because she's dead. No. This is one of the few songs where I think Trung almost breaks his own voice to try and keep up, and it doesn't really land. He's just not selling it to me. The piano's really nice, especially midway when the beat goes away and you're left with just the piano keys chiming away. Woman doesn't get the attention that she wants, and she gets sad. But to a certain extent, if you're used to being loved and adored by someone and you don't have that anymore, that fucking sucks. I don't know why that's like, I mean, I know it's not explicitly framed as a negative, very unempathetic and not good. You know how I said Brad didn't have it in him these first couple years? That was a fucking lie. My Girlfriend is the first real meaningful TV Girl song, I think. It's very soft and heartfelt. It doesn't come out the gate and smack you upside the head with an amazing beat or some overblown sample. It's incredibly simplistic. The instrumentals, the kind of almost whispering light vocals throughout, and then especially when the beat breaks down a little bit and you just hear the little chimes in the background as he's talking about something that happened back in high school. The song also introduces a core theme of, I'd say, a lot of their music going forward. The lows and the negatives are not something that need to be looked back upon as this scourge something that needs to be redressed or that need to be remedied, or that they were entirely the worst thing ever. It's not like it was the end of the world that all of these things happen. He emphasizes in the third verse, like there's more than just, oh, she's fucking up right now, or oh, I don't know if I can take this right now because I'm in a bad spot or whatever. Because he goes through their history and it's deeper than just, oh, I met this person and they seem really cool. They have some kind of history together. They mean more to each other than just like the sum of their little character traits and nice little quirks and little goofy shit that they do together. And guess what? The goofy shit they do together is, it's not everything, but it is that little thing. Because by the end of it, he's also lamenting, without it, he wouldn't be necessarily nothing, but he'd feel lost without it. Somehow it's detached and incredibly cynical, but also incredibly sincere at the same time. I can't make up my mind which one it is right now. It's just a great song. It sounds great, and I'd be lying if I said it also didn't strike a certain chord with me. It's sort of whimsical. A lot of their songs have that whimsy to them, a little whimsical sound. I don't think this is the first song that Trung and Brad are on the same track vocalizing and both kill it. We'll just, you know what, we'll settle on good. I mean, this album fucking slaps. This EP is great, and Melanie is a good closer, especially with the chimes just leading out into and just fading, and the last one being sort of a period at the end of the sentence. Nice little punctuation to end everything on. Especially when Trung gets on there, a very emotional vocalization for something that is ultimately just incredibly cynical and very just like mean and judgmental at a certain point. We'll put it on like the lower end of good. The chorus is kind of overblown. It doesn't annoy me. I feel like it's unnecessarily boisterous and in your face when the content is just sort of bland. The notes are just droning and they kind of like, it just gets stuck in your head. I shouldn't put it in good. I'll move it down to mid. Easier to Cry at least has kind of a little catch to it. Girls Like Me just is kind of in my ear. Should I put it annoying though? It's just getting lower and lower now that I think about it. It is annoying because the sentiment's still incredibly obnoxious. They think it's easy for a girl like me because I don't even have to try. I don't know. Hey, look, McDonald's colors. Fuck, I just hit the microphone. It's just so fuckboy, and it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't have the effect that they're going for. If I was a woman, you know how easy it would be for me? No, don't kid yourself. The guitar riff is pretty cute. I like it in the background. Also, it's Brad voice, and he just doesn't have a lot of energy on this. Boy lusting after the hot lifeguard at his community pool. Very odd Sandlot reference to include in your discography. You know what? We'll put it at the top of mid. I shit on Brad's voice, but I do like the cadence as well, the way he navigates through all the lyrics here. That's kind of what it is. When he tries to sing, it's like navigating a ship. I might get some shit for this. Just like, whatever. The melody's sort of quirky, and the in the chorus is pretty nice. There is a fucking chime in the background of this song. It drives me fucking crazy, and no matter how hard I try to block it out or pretend like it's not there, I can't not fucking hear it, and I feel like I have Havana syndrome. It's not a bad song. It's just like a glamorous retelling of just this weird incident that happened where Natalie Wood was on a boat with two other guys and she just fell off somehow and then ended up dead. And no one can come to a concrete conclusion. And the cops just, let that go. Just let it happen. You should have planned on making a more interesting song. It's very dramatic and theatrical, and I don't really know if it says much. The vibe of the song that I can only describe as like lost, longing, looking for something. They try to get a female perspective on the track, and it doesn't really do much, honestly. We're gonna go ahead and get the like singles and oddities out of the way. A lot of their early stuff is just kind of whatever. It's just mid. Strange Loop. More like Strange Poop. Try Again. The title is incredibly apt because this whole track just tastes like fucking diet soda. Nothing. Your personality is that you're dating someone better than you. Right there. Boom. Average guy. Okay, are you ready to get up and fucking dance, moron? I like the little fucking, I don't know, the coconut drum that they got going in the background. Everything about it, the rhythm, the pace, the, you know, the energy that they bring with it, the echoey sound. Okay, we're bringing it down again. Honestly, I could just put like everything from their singles category in here. You know what? You want to be spiteful? Two can play at that fucking game. It's like, it's the same thing as Girls Like Me. I'm so upset that these women get that kind of attention, and I just, in my mind, think that they don't have to work for it, and it's just ingrained. They're born with it. Because of that, because I'm a spiteful little shit, I revel in the fact that I can make people who've had it very, you know, from my perspective, very easy their entire lives, just feel like shit. It's nice. It's great. No, it's not. You're just a different flavor of shit. You know how I said I don't like putting songs in F tier? This is that exception.
Man, I'm so fucking sick and tired of these bargain basement back to Marco wannabes.
Everything about this is just so fucking stupid to me. It's basically Brad in a character speaking to some fucking idiot hipster who wrote like a diss track. I don't even think it was, I think there was like one line in some god-awful fucking song that he wrote where he said, "Fuck that band TV girl," and it sucks because it's incredibly stupid. Who are either of you at this point? Because Brad is a fucking SoCal indie rock guy, ends up being the most hipster bullshit you can think of, which is nerd rap at its worst. I wrote it down as Matty Acid partakes in a SoCal white guy indie rock rap beef. Insufferable. Really forgettable if it weren't for the beat switch halfway through where it kind of, or I guess sort of like a breakdown where it becomes a little more simplistic, a little quieter, a little softer, and it turns into essentially a confession of a crime by a charismatic murderer. It falls under the same thing as being like an unreliable narrator situation, another common point that I think runs through a lot of their music. We'll just put it here in a mid. It's nothing amazing. Won't knock your socks off. The breakdown on the beat are groovy, but it doesn't stick out. There's nothing, I don't know. There's just not a lot to it for me. What I can glean from it is the beat is sexually confused. I said sexually confused on the other one. I don't even know what's going on here. It's just like, mixing? Hello? Oh boy, not beating the male manipulator allegations with this song. It's absolutely worse than literally everything else. It might be their worst song. I know why they made it. I know why it's here. I know why they did it. It's a troll. It's just like a very clear low effort troll, but that doesn't make it like good or competent as a song. It still sounds like shit, is incredibly obnoxious and just purposefully grating. There's so much. Oh no, fuck off. Can't you see that I need ya? Salida. The award for the longest title goes to. I like it. I think it's really cute, very heartfelt, very soft. It's pretty. It's good. It's fine. It sounds good. You could put it on in the background and it'd be like, oh, okay, this is nice. This is nice. This is one of those like beachy tracks, something that's a little more, I don't want to say twangy. It's, I don't know. It's a good little vibe. I like it. It's got some energy to it. Trung's voice on it, thank God, because if it was Brad, it would be, if a song, when I sit down and listen to it, I envision myself at the beach, listening to it on the sand with a jukebox or in my car with all the windows down, blaring it through my speakers. It's automatically going to be a good song to me. I'm just a beach person, and it's got like that beachy vibe to it. Didn't know what they were fighting for. It's like vaguely tropical or beachy with a little bit of whimsy in there, that nice kind of carefree attitude. The guitar riffs and picks, the little chords that they hit here and there. Background vocals, nice. A little angst in there. We'll just put them right next to each other. But yeah, I'd say it's good. I know you're gonna get on me about this. It sounds better than the original. The Girls Like Me is just so overblown, and the demo version, even though it's Brad, somehow Brad singing it, somehow they nailed the feel, and I feel like they did a better job on this than they did in the full release version. So yeah. It was easier to cry. We'll just get this one out of the way. It's somehow worse than the original, which is already incredibly whiny, and this one is whiny but without any of the production value. Might be another controversial opinion. The alternate version is better than the original one. It's a classic case of doing more with less. Without having the grand production value, the drums hitting you in your fucking face, the sax at the 0-second mark, the sample coming in and hitting you with its grandiosity. At its bare bones, very lovely piano, and then nice little, almost like a wind chime in the background when you get to the chorus. It does so much with so little, and I really, really, really like that. That sort of, I don't know if you call it minimalist, like that really minimal, in comparison to the original version, that like minimal feel, that minimal sound. Very nice. The impact that the original had that this one is lacking, the piano, when you just hear it kind of come in and hit, it's good, and I'd say it's sort of interchangeable here, but I think if I had to give it the edge, if I had to give the edge to either any one of them, I would say it's the alt version is better. I didn't really put down much for this because it's just, you know, it's just an intro track. There's not a lot to say about it. I will say the line, "There aren't enough television shows or songs on radio to keep me distracted." It will become more important later on. A fucking banger to come out. No, this is okay, just fucking slaps, strings, horns, the kick, snare, just the beat is fucking awesome. I mean, it's something you can't, come on, don't lie. If you've been in a relationship, you can't help but think a little bit like, well, you know, hope they're doing well. I'd say it's all right. It's just not as energetic as the rest of them. The shooby-doo-wop in the background is pretty cute. Misery being the price you pay for being in and falling out of love. But, you know, you live for it. It's just mid. It's, again, similar sentiment of just moving on, like Tears in the Rain. Get over it. Calming, somber. Everything is a cycle. I think that's what they're trying to say. It's got a nice kick to it. Nothing too spectacular, I'd say. Chimes are nice in there too. Kind of like a little interlude as it leads into the second half of the album. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of boring. There's not a lot to it. Even with Trung's voice, it's just, I don't know.
That is the end of side one of this record.
Yoda? Sounds kind of jumbled. It's all over the place and doesn't really, maybe it's representative of his mind too. It's about some loser boyfriend who just doesn't really give a shit about anything and pretends to listen, complaining about other people that get on his nerves. I don't know. It's just, it's whatever. Very nice, sort of a dreamy sound, nice and soft. Vivid in its imagery though. I mean, the transition alone from the previous song just gets me every single time. The chords have a little twang to them, a little sass, little attitude. Soft vocals, very groovy, and the beat is fucking sick. Just the drum, especially, again, the transition in the beginning. Just the drums hitting you after the sample fades away. Fucking sick. Definitely more energy in it than the rest of these, personally. And also, I like the sample too. It's it may be a little obnoxious at the end, but it's nothing that I can't get over, nothing I can't look past. Hopeless romantic, finding love in a way that they may not have expected initially. Kind of cheesy but heartfelt. And again, Trung's voice, really lovely.
So that's official critique take from your mother.
He literally included a voicemail from his mother telling him that she loved the album. It's pretty cute. I'll give you that. You got your mom on the track. Nice. The entire track is literally just, thanks, Mom. Great song. I like it because it is incredibly self-aware. I'm going to move to San Francisco. I'm going to be one of these guys spending way too much money to live in a shitty loft somewhere. So I'm going to live this boutique lifestyle that I've seen in movies and television that I fetishized my entire young adult life. Getting into relationships of convenience, if it means that I can meet my goals a little more. It's shitty. It's cynical. If it was strung on here, there'd be too much emotion. It wouldn't be as detached. This type of person and this attitude and what it's speaking to is the performative nature of a creative. Someone who is a creative. It's about art. Art is the only thing that matters. It is very annoying to have to listen to someone who talks like this. And I would know the pretentiousness, the delusions of grandeur, this idea that you're going to be the next big thing up and coming, as if there weren't millions of guys just like you who thought exactly the same. It speaks to this cosplaying, essentially, because whether or not this person actually is creative or actually is an artist or is just mimicking and miming that affect because they know the clout it might grant them, the social capital, something to look into there. I gotta say, I think it's pretty good. Angstily shouting at you that everything in your entire life is all just a media property and being sold to you. And it's the entire purpose is to kind of wrench a bit of your humanity away and fill that void with just products and time-wasting consumerism and just mind-numbing entertainment, which, like, again, if you were not listening and were not paying attention for the entire album, this is it. This is your reminder that this is what this is about. It sounds good, and I do like the message, and I do like what it's saying, but, you know, actually, I've decided it's good, but I'm just going to keep it down here for right now. Great wrap up. I will have to say I like this a little more. It makes the perfect closer. Love all the hip-hop samples at the end too. Nice little touch there. I say it's the perfect closer, not because it literally ends with the opening humming and harmonizing that started off the album in Keep Me Distracted, but it also kind of ties into the thought process that goes into your brain as you fucking die. A repeated theme on the album of cycles and alluding to the idea that everything in your current life that you're living through right now is just a dream. Yeah, very existential. Just keep this in your back pocket. The concept of death and the idea of endings. I like the gradual build up to the inevitable drop off at the end where I just hit the fucking mic again, where it fades away into nothingness and it just kind of, you know, you feel like you're falling into a pit or your mind is blanking and you're out until you wake up and it starts all over again. Here's where the real fun begins. I have to say, you might flame me for this. I think it's fucking beautiful. Just the chorus, the instrumentals. It's just, no, it's fucking awesome. Young men were out in the jungle. Death was at every single corner, every single turn, behind every single tree. At a certain point, the only thing that got them through was luck. But a lot of that luck in their minds may have come from the idea that someone at home was rooting for them. Someone was there. And at a certain point, insecurities about whether or not that special someone is still there for you when you get back. The unfortunate, very common endpoint for if we're speaking about, you know, military men, finding out that that person isn't there for them anymore. What kind of heartbreak that might lead to, especially in what is already an incredibly stressful environment. And also the vulnerability aspect of it. Maybe I'm risking everything right now and I will get nothing out of this, especially by the time I come back home and I find out that I don't have anyone to come home to. It's a thing that people don't like to admit to, especially men, that there are certain things, whether they be material, like physical totems in this case. Sometimes people have those safety blankets, like in this case with the ex's pantyhose, that reminds them and makes them feel like they belong, makes them feel safe, makes them feel wanted, even if it's all for naught at the end of the day. Being super vulnerable is not a desirable position to be in. It's not something that you'd want, but there's no shame in it. And it happens to the best of us. It happens to people in probably the worst situations in their life. and you still have to power through it. You can't get demoralized. You can't let yourself just fall out because the worst has happened to you now and you're in a low point. And all you have to remember, in this case, remember her, is just a little bits and pieces here and there. You have to keep moving, because if you don't, well, how do you ever expect to find your way back? Whew, all right. Now, coming down from that one, sampling in the backing, really nice. The horns in the background, I don't know exactly what they are. Comment, I want to learn. Please teach me what all this musical bullshit is. The chorus is nice, although the sample in the chorus kind of gets on me a little bit here and there about communicating troubles in dating and hookups. Sees it as a lost cause, more than likely because the guy sees women as an entirely different species of animal and not explicitly human, if you want to look at it through that lens. But if I'm being charitable, communication breakdowns in relationships is probably like a much nicer, little cushier way of interpreting this. Luis, you look good right there. Beautiful melody, beautiful chimes, and sampling in there is also really good. I don't know if I didn't really mention that on my notes, but I thought that was very pretty as well. From what I can glean, foreign girl living in a foreign world, having trouble connecting and loving as she can't exactly grapple with her own shortcomings or faults. I would say it's a low point. I mean, it comes down from Pantyhose and Birds Don't Sing. It's a little more chill, a little more relaxed. It's very lovely. It definitely puts you in the mood to reflect and go sad girl, which this is the album for sad girls, which you will find out soon enough. I don't hate this song, but it's just not like, you know what? You can go right there. It's just sort of whatever. It's meh. It's forgettable. The mid portion of this album is just kind of it's like a big valley that you have to get through to get to the good parts, which are at the end, the peaks at the other end, on either end of the valley. I mean, the chorus is nice, and the piano and everything. A jealous partner or maybe a friend or someone's trying to chastise this girl for a lot of self-destructive tendencies that she has, and also feeding into maybe a sort of internalized misogyny on the part of the woman. A little more fun, a little more upbeat, focuses on like a Bonnie and Clyde duo going around getting into hijinks and stuff as a means of avoiding conversations they really should be having right now. Focusing on the possibilities and the future is not bad, but ignoring what's going on in the present and all the issues currently facing both of you in your relationship is not good. I don't know about this one. It's just kind of, we'll just say mid. Really mellow, really calming. The whistles in the background after the chorus, it sort of paints this picture, the entire thing paints a picture of a crime that had happened. And the people in the background whistling kind of feel like observers. They know what happened and they can see it. They're chiming in as if to give their 2 cents on the situation when they could have helped. They could have stopped it, but they didn't. People are told a lot of times in our society that it's their fault that something happened to them. That this bad, this horrible, bad, hold on. Now that I think about it a little more, yeah, I'm coming around on this. Innocent people don't just get taken advantage of and abused in a vacuum out of nowhere. It happens because other people allow it to happen. They stand by and they watch and they don't say anything until it's too late. Or they just never say anything. They pretend as though it never even occurred. I've changed my mind on this. I think that there's a little more to glean from this, actually. Doesn't sound too bad. It's a little slow and a little quiet, a little whispery for my taste, but I think it's pretty thoughtful. A lot of energy in this one. Kind of goes after societally constructed toxic beauty standards. Maybe not where they come from, but what they lead to. And what they lead to is no one being happy. Everyone being miserable. No one being happy. Even the people who it's supposed to benefit. It doesn't feel good to feel like an object whatsoever, regardless of if there's, there's positive connotation in your society that like, oh, you are what people want. You are the desirable thing. But it's like, but I'm not a thing. I'm a person. I'm a human with feelings and emotions and wants and needs and love and everything, like all this ooey gooey shit. And you're not going to allow that. You're not going to give me any of that like breathing room because I'm just some like, I don't know, I'm a pretty face. I mean, honestly, how dreadful and damaging it is to women, especially young women, and how they perceive themselves. Supposedly, men are supposed to be the strong ones in this dynamic, who set the boundaries, who set the standards, sort of force women to comply to them. But in reality, men are no less implicated and no less fickle and weak and holeless. Where does it go? Because it's just been sitting here blinking. I'll keep it in gray. We'll keep it at the bottom here. I think it's really good. Daughter of a Cop? I don't know. I'm fucking tired, and I was tired when I was listening to this song. You know what? We'll put it here. We'll just leave it here. Definitely groovy, but not a lot of energy. I could see myself falling to sleep listening to this song. Somewhat risky relationship with the eponymous daughter of a cop, who I'm assuming if her dad found out would just, you know, kill you with the body cam turned off with his service weapon, like they really like to do. In the background singing in the chorus and like throughout where you hear the pretty nice. Again, gives this like echoey dreamscape feeling, but in this case, it's just kind of boring. Okay. All right. Where is it gonna go? I don't know. Let me think about that. Well, other than being the sad girl anthem and the one song that everybody knows by TV Girl, the fucking strings and melody, like the raw emotion that gets drawn out from listening to it, that sample, pain and acceptance coming from realizing that whatever the fuck you got yourself into, whatever that shit was, is over, even if it was good. Even if it was what you wanted, it might not have been, it might have been, but it's over now. And you have to look back on, you know, you're looking back and reminiscing on the positives, but like taking that and applying it to a future relationship or thinking forward, you come to the realization that it's all going to come to a head again. And more than likely, it's going to end the same way. It's fatalistic thinking for sure. Very cynical. It is very real though. That's why it's a great song, because it is very fucking real. Very overly dramatic in its presentation, everything about it. And I cannot stress enough, it might even be more sad girl femcel core than any other song that they have. Where does it go though? Where does it go? Where does it go? You fucking got me. You got me, all right? You've won me over. You fucking swayed me. Are you fucking happy now? Go upstairs, don't close the door. A little more vibrant than whatever the fuck we just got over there. Very tragic. The keys, piano. There's a flute in there, I think, somewhere. The higher tones definitely hit you a little more. A little flutter of emotion up and down amidst all the numb feeling that you get from listening to this and hearing everything described. The drums keeping you awake and keeping you in it, even though you don't really feel like investing more time into whatever it is that you have. Not the song. The song's fine. I mean, like, what's described. For what I can glean, because this one was also kind of hard for me to follow, but just bear with me here. Basically, jealous lovers, or jealous ex-lovers in this case, finding different ways of getting back at one another. In this case, the guy, from our perspective, can only meekly speak his mind on how he feels and what he thinks, and give his a very rough and heartfelt opinion on the whole situation. Whereas the girl, through her actions, effectively communicates how she feels about the whole situation. And I gotta say, I do like the sound, but I think like following along, I'd like to think that I'm a good listener, but in this case, I guess I'm not. I guess I'm just fucking stupid. I like it, even if it's not entirely legible to me, unfortunately. Sorry. Come when you call. Come when you come. Come when you come. Call when you come. I can't even say. I'm not okay in content wise. Yes, it's better than most of these. Sonically, I'm just not. No, I don't really feel it. I'm not a big fan of the especially like there's like a constant just back and forth noise that I'm getting here. It drives me insane, and it's kind of disorienting. There's another common relationship, L. A staple of exes and lovers coming back together when either of their own independent ventures don't work out anymore. They know who to call. It's definitely heartfelt, if not a bit, upsetting or tragic that we still can't get over people that we used to be with that we probably should get over for our own mental health. I mean, there's nothing, again, it's an inherent flaw in our very weak and kind of fickle minds that we rather go back to something comfortable than take the hard route and get over it or go past it. It's not exactly an exclusively male thing to reach out to an ex to say, hey, do you want to fuck? We're all fucking stupid. We all make mistakes. It's okay. It's not okay. But you hopefully learn from it. Not a great idea, not smart, not healthy, but very human. She keeps fucking shut the fuck up. I'm busy. I'm busy doing jack shit. If there's something that you've noticed here, which I highlighted by putting F down here in the bad, because yeah, you get an F if you're bad. You notice that this doesn't add up for like a normal tier list. It should have 7 ranks from F to S. This is where I changed that. Angela is their first, I would say, just masterpiece of a song. I love everything about this song, every single little bit and piece of this song. It makes the perfect closer for this album. French Exit has like this very particular feel to me where you feel like you're almost standing in a black void. I can't help but feel like this final song kind of pulls you out of that void and drops you back into the real world, into the physical world. The little chimes and dings, I can't exactly explain it. Solid beat overall that built, and like, I mean, before the guitar comes in, that brief build up with the drums, and then it just, the breakdown hits you, and then the riff comes through, the chords come through, and you're just like, God, it's not too hard, not too heavy. It's like a good in between. So the backdrop of this is a cold night in summer or in fall, I presume, where it's basically fucking for shelter, I guess, is the idea. But if you take it literally, if you take it in that literal context, it's a relationship of pure convenience, a fucking for shelter. It's about utility in the moment, comfort in the moment. She can't stay in the cold. It's not summer. She's only trying to literally stay warm by staying and sleeping with him for the night. So she'll be back because, well, it's a convenience thing. But if looked at through a different lens, she's caught feelings and he wants it to be true. They both want it to be true, which is why in the chorus, he makes a point of saying he hasn't seen the last of her. They both try to play it off as just being, oh, well, it's nothing serious, it's nothing too lovey-dovey, it's all just right place at the right time. The seed of doubt being planted in there, everything about it, it's just so, it's down to earth, it's very heartfelt. The simplistic nature of it, the very the fact that it's not like so fucking overdone production wise, and it's just simple sampling, acoustics, it adds to that down to earth feeling that you get listening to it and relating to the subject matter if you can. It strikes me as kind of a meet cute, and I'm a sucker for meet cutes, where two people get together under unpredictable circumstances and end up falling for each other. I think it's really sweet. Even if it is incredibly juvenile and you've heard it a million times, of course you have. But I think that I don't know, it's meaningful because unlike a lot of their other songs as well, it comes off as very sincere. In a lot of different, it's not like played entirely like cynically. The uncertainty with which he speaks and how, it doesn't matter anyways, just, trying to psych himself into believing that, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't really, but then at the end of it coming back and saying, well, I haven't seen the last of her, playing with his own mind. No, it's just lovely. It's just a beautiful, lovely song. Perfect closer. I cannot reiterate that enough. Probably their best song, definitely in contention for best song. I guess I have to illustrate it. So like Ethereal is, I can't put it in any different way. It's just a great song. The level of vulnerability and sincerity portrayed in it, I think, is incredibly endearing. Let's get back into this with the one that most people give a shit about. This, as an opener of their big albums, it's probably the weakest of the openers altogether. Incredibly relatable in its content. You talk to someone, you're with someone for long enough, and you break up. Oh fuck, I left my hoodie. Can I please have my hoodie back? Smooth jazzy sax that you got going in the background there. Piano keys to start off. And the sampling, which you notice throughout the album, is on point the entire time. I gotta say, it's pretty good. I was going to put it up in the top of good tier, but When I think about it now, I actually left a fucking hoodie somewhere. Not just a hoodie, but a fucking tire iron as well. She still has it, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't know that she has it. You know, I've got to say, I like this one a hell of a lot more than I like Taking What's Not Yours. If this were the opener, I think it might be even a little stronger, because I think that's a good spot for it. Real dreamy, listless, going through everything in the relationship and then realizing that it was all for naught, it was pointless. Even though you still grant it that real emotional weight to warrant writing songs about it in the first place. It's self-deprecating, but also incredibly judgy because, you know, you're being a messy bitch, basically. You don't think that all that you went through was worth it. You think it was jack shit, or maybe it was even meaningless, but you can't help giving it this emotional weight that brings it back around to being incredibly meaningful and being really powerful. Real groovy, and the beat fucking rocks. A little sullen, downtrodden, talking about old habits sticking around and festering and becoming more tiresome and troubling. Those negatives, those bad habits acting as tells to everyone else around you. Extensions of your own bad mental that are clearly visible and clearly readable by everyone else. Once again, it's about being a messy bitch, and no one wants to be around a messy bitch. I'm not big on it personally, though. It's okay. Put it down here. Fine, whatever. I don't know. I'd say it's like an interlude. It's actually pretty bland. Sort of a double meaning in that, obviously, taken literally, till you tell me to leave, is it okay for me to still stay here unless you want me to go? Or is it okay for me to still be awake and conscious, talking to you, seeing you, speaking to you, experiencing this? Is it okay for me to fall asleep? Is it okay for me to just, you know, drift away for a little bit? Because, you know, losing that means you're leaving them to themselves. While you're asleep, they're awake. And it absolutely works as like a calm down lead in to what we have coming up. Okay, we're gonna play this the easy way. Not Allowed is the song that got them all of the recognition in the first place. The sound, everything, the mixing, the sample is incredibly crass and very in your face and boisterous. Like what's being talked about and what's being said, and the tone set by the rest of the instrumentation is so clearly despairing and just hopeless and sad and just, oh my God, what the fuck have I done? And a lot of those feelings come from sex and love and relationships, whether they work or whether they don't. It's the negatives and the bad parts, the despair, the looking back on, the fucking regret that you have, and the spite, all that negativity is taken, balled up, crushed, melted down, and pressed into LPs with all of their music on it. You will go through all of this. You will go through this love and these relationships and these experiences in your life. And you won't always get any explanation or answers as to why this or that happened, or why it started, why it had to end, why it ended when it did. The whole point is that you're not allowed, once it's over, to pry further. Whether you or the other person or just pressure from those around you or social expectations don't allow you to pry further and ask those questions. What's done is done. What's gone? Why would you want to get an answer? It's not like that's going to apply to what happens in the future, but it doesn't change that human want, that almost like innate need for an explanation, for rationalization. You know, why did it have to happen this way? Why did we have to break up? Why did you say that you loved me in the first place? All of these questions don't get answered. Another way that you could read this, another way that you could read way too into this, is that it's also speaking more broadly to dating and dating culture as a whole. The idea of finding love, much like finding answers, as if love is an answer to the question of what do I do with my life? What meaning is there to it? Finding love is just in crisis. Dating as a whole is like the dating scene in human interaction has just been so marketized and sliced and diced and gamified. Finding love and being in a relationship, or even just having casual sex, trying to go by a playbook. You need to meet this, and this criteria. You need to have all of these requisite qualities. or pass this arbitrary benchmark, and then you're like, okay, then you're in the clear. We're doing it to ourselves. We're making love and dating and experiencing like these really human emotions and feelings. We're making this harder and honestly more arduous overall, and not in a way that we like grow or learn from, in a way where we just become bitter and resentful. Another thing that the artists themselves broadly focuses in on is the idea of media and broader culture, but specifically television and music, shaping our perception of what it means to be a good and a bad person, what it means to live a righteous and moral and correct life, and how to go about dealing with other people or living in a society. Like it or not, we get a lot of our pointers and a lot of our cues from media as to how to live our lives. Accepting this curated culture and this curated lifestyle, not one that we made for ourselves, one that we follow. And part of that lifestyle, part of that cultural ideal is once you break up and once you're exes, you don't talk to them again. You don't say anything. You're supposed to just write them off. You're just supposed to detach yourself and move beyond it. But in reality, as imperfect and flawed creatures as we are in the back of our minds, whenever that happens, going to think about it and wonder, maybe I could message them. Maybe I could text them. I just want to see what they're up to. You might not even have any like ulterior motive to it. You might just genuinely wonder how they're doing and what's up, because, you know, I mean, that's a person you spend a good amount of time with. But you're told and you've conditioned yourself into just accepting that once they're gone, and they might as well not exist anymore. And I think that's tragic. That's a tragedy in of itself. It might be incredibly petty. It might be serious too, for sure. But to pretend that it never happened in the first place is, I think, and to write it off and act as though it doesn't have an effect on you anymore. Well, we're broken up. Why should I think about it at all? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's a tragedy in and of itself. It's blocking a certain amount of emotion that you need to get out. You really need to think about and consider. But in summary, what do I think Not Allowed is about? Why do I think it's really good? Well, first of all, it fucking slaps and it sounds great. Melodic and beautiful. The sampling is in your face and really crass. Subject matter, it is a We Live in a Society song. What else is there? Yeah, I mean, life imitating art in place of us as humans actually dictating our own paths and not just doing what we're told and listening to what everyone else says that we should do in our own relationships, or what media says that we should do, or how we should comport ourselves. Love sucks, but we want it. To build off the art imitating life thing, the narrator or the songwriter has an active role in this song and in others as well, but in this one I think it definitely snowballs with all the points that I've tried to make here, with the just active retelling of the story to suit his or her biases while obscuring their own faults, which ultimately implicates themselves in this. It's a two-way street, and you're supposed to be able to work through that. And if you're just going to go through and retcon everything and do a little revisionism in your cute little song that you wrote about an ex, I guess that's kind of another sneak criticism of art and media, is that ultimately the people who create, the people who are writing or singing for whatever piece of media they're doing, they have creative control. They have full editorial control. They can write and rewrite and bastardize the actual story as much as they fucking want to suit their needs. It definitely shows why it didn't work out, because you're trying to cover this shit up. You're trying to rewrite everything. I don't know. There's a lot to work. There's a lot to look into there, I think. Not Allowed, definitely S tier. If I had to justify this, why I would say it's not the absolute top tier, whereas everyone else would probably say that it is. Angela, I think, is ultimately more accessible to most people, and most people could probably get into it a hell of a lot easier than they could with Not Allowed. But I think that if you're going to sit someone down and see, like, what do you think about this? And what can you glean from this? Can you analyze this? Can you look into this? It's a more accessible story, and it's something that doesn't, if my notes are anything to go by, does not require an entire page of schizo ramblings to itself to try to break down. So I have to give the one up to Angela. All right, now let's shut up and dance. Do the Act is probably the most fun song on the entire album. Kicks you out of that sad girl state that you were in right before in Not Allowed. It's an absolute fucking banger. This is definitely kind of like an 80s dance tune, for sure. Ultimately kind of despairing, but that's every single one of their fucking songs. Get over it. Have fun. It's not nearly as deep or nearly as, I guess, thoughtful as the rest, as a lot of the other ones that I put high up, but that pure vibes-based mentality, it is just... yeah, no, definitely a fucking banger. I can't help but get in a good mood whenever I hear this song. It sort of revolves around trying to rekindle that dying flame in a relationship, whether or not they separated and they're getting back together, or it's been a long time since they've seen each other, or they've been together for a long time and they're trying to spice things up, but it doesn't really work out. Again, we live for the fuck, and it's not always ideal, but don't let a good thing go to waste. As long as you're both into it, who gives a shit? Another fucking dreamy hit that I love so much. I mean, it's about fucking, which again, very cool. We love affirmative consent. We love, don't we, folks? The angelic voices in the background doing the little background harmony. The composition of it in between is just really nice. The brass instrument in the back that just kind of blares at you a little bit. Definitely very, very nice. It's about affirmative consent and setting boundaries. The backing, the instrumentation is nice. I don't really like the sample vocals that are on here, or whatever it is the fuck that's going on in the chorus. I think it's very pretty. It's definitely still a very good song. This album's incredibly consistent. There's very few low points throughout, and I think that it's all nice, it all fits, but I think this is probably one of the weaker links. I'll put it like here. It's something that befalls everyone who's just hopelessly in love or has a crush, or, you know, just can't seem to get that person's attention. Or if you do, they don't reciprocate, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, it might not feel fine, but it's okay. You'll be okay. You'll survive. What you give up and everything on the other end is probably not worth it in the end, but again, be stupid, but like, don't be stupid, you know? You know what? Yeah, we'll put it in here. We'll put it up here. I really like this song almost exclusively for the instruments and the piano keys. It's another case of less being more, and the flute at the very end, it really drives home that lonely feeling, which is at the end of the day what it's about, focusing almost exclusively on the woman in this case from an outside observer. So it's still judgmental, of course. The stand-in loving machine, the robot, the device, it won't hurt her. It won't destroy her confidence or bring her down emotionally or literally physically hurt her. But it also won't give her anything that she could want beyond just pure physical satisfaction. It's not that deeper feeling. And trying to escape from those real desires and needs, and not that it's necessarily unfounded. I'm not trying to make an excuse for someone who's abused or someone who's been in a bad relationship or has a lot of trauma, because that absolutely plays a part in why people kind of detach and move away. Even if you're mostly content with being by yourself, you can't help but understand that that little part of you is missing. Whether or not you feel like you could ever do that again, it's still not there with you now. And you might have become more used to it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to become comfortable with it all the time, or that it doesn't get to you every now and then thinking about it. Oh man, dude, I turned the AC up. This room is already starting to get a little chilly. It's fine. It's like, okay, there's not like, I mean, I don't really like the way that it sounds in the sample. I mean, it has a lot of energy. I'll give it that. I do like that. But I don't know. It just doesn't really do anything for me. It's real peppy and energetic and like embracing the end, embracing reality, the real reality of your situation that's going on here, whether it's breakup, big changes in your life, or the end of your fucking life. There's a rare moment of self-reflection from the singer and what he said and what he's done and who he is as a person. It's like oddly optimistic and hopeful in its tone. The face of embracing an uncertain future, or I guess in this case, a certain future, sort of like alluded in the title. He knows he ain't getting into heaven. He's a fucking, he's a shithead. He's made all these mistakes and he's burned a lot of bridges, and he at a certain level understands himself to not be a fucking good person or worthy of any kind of real praise or positive affirmation, because he knows who he is. He knows what he's done. But he also, and that's the point of reflection. It's, it's still kind of like tongue in cheek here and there, as with a lot of their stuff. I confess to think that sex was my salvation, but really they just start with the letter S. You'll forgive me for thinking heaven is her bedroom. It's the closest I would ever get. It's kind of putting a little happy little face on the like negativity, and leaning into and I don't know if I elaborated more when I talked about Not Allowed, the positive nihilism that comes with a lot of their music, in that all this shit is fucking pointless. There is no point to like life or living or any of that. But that doesn't mean that you give up or that you just resign to like existential dread. You understand that what you've been given is incredibly unique. What you've been given and what you have right now is something that statistically you should not like be here right now, but you're experiencing all of these things, you're living in it, and you might as well fucking try. And I see that in here. Like, I mean, it's in all of their music for the most part, it's in a lot of their songs, but I just don't really, I don't know. The sound doesn't really get to me that much, and I'd have to say that even though it's kind of a heartfelt message, it's not the kind of like going out with a bang. It's not the same. It doesn't really hit the same. I'm gonna need for you to suspend your disbelief and listen to me when I say that Pretty Boy is probably their best opener. I mean, the fucking guitar strings, the female vocals in the chorus, the chanting and humming in the background. I honestly, I think the guitar is what sells it for me. The mood that's set from just like these lonely strings strumming away, driving to the beach by yourself, no one else, no real plan, just heading out to the water to try and like get lost in a different place, because where you came from is not desirable to you anymore. You don't see any worth or utility in trying to just stick it out and suffer where you've been this whole time. You're miserable. And part of that is because you feel as though you're being whittled down to your bits and pieces and your parts and these little individual things that people can pick apart about you on the outside, and not necessarily for how you feel as a person, specifically as a man on the inside. And that's insecurity. Of course it is. Everyone has an insecurity. Just some people are better at hiding it or couching it in something else or using flowery language to talk around it. But I mean, that is just that kind of insecurity or being unsure of yourself is, I think, something that a lot of people have in whole lot of different and varying ways. Feeling like you don't really matter as a person or as an individual, and more just like, what can you offer? What can you do? Do you make this amount of money? What kind of job do you have? Do you meet this arbitrary educational threshold? Do you meet this arbitrary threshold of attractiveness and physical beauty? If you don't, then you don't, and you're already a known quantity there. But if you do, that thing about you is worth more than you yourself. So it's similar to Girls Like Me, but reversed. And I don't want to say that I'm putting more stock in like the sort of male critique here than I am in the field, because Girls Like Me is just, I mean, first of all, I think it's annoying auditorily. Secondly, it just seems incredibly, not hateful, just sort of like disdaining, like the disdain that they must have for that type of woman. Wherein in this case, it seems more pitiable. Not that it's necessarily talking down to or looking down upon this person for being that. It's just kind of like, well, isn't that sad? Going back to how it is as an opener, probably the most mellow and definitely like the sadder of all of the openers that you had, because everything else has a certain amount of energy to it. It's trying to, ooh, okay, this is a new album. This is something new. Wake the fuck up. Get ready to dance. And I think that because of that, it sets more of a unique tone for this project, because it helps it stand out a bit more against the others, which do start off more peppy and more energetic, and the standard that they've kind of set for themselves. And this one differs from that. And I think that that adds to the uniqueness of the entire experience. Yeah, no, that's all I had to say. I love the way it sounds. I think it sounds fucking beautiful. I think it sounds amazing. I guess I kind of relate to this, or have an easier time relating to this than something else. And whatever that says about me, make your judgments, because I am not going to look any further into that. Fucking good. Kind of a tropical, twangy sound, beachy. This whole album makes me feel like I want to go to the beach. I love it. I love it so much. I don't know if I'd say that it's necessarily beautiful. It doesn't have that kind of personable quality that a lot of the other ones do as well. It's either like high good or low great. The chanting in the background and the instrumentation, the sampling. I mean, they hit it out the park with this whole album, but this song too definitely hits. It's mostly just the sound that carries it for me.
But it didn't really last long. She's getting older.
Definitely one of my favorite songs by them overall. It also, this is a case of personal bias and personal experience. It's despairing. It's sad girl and honestly sad boy in the same way as a lot of their other songs are. The vocalizations in the background doing your little bum, bum, bum. It's a nice moody little touch there, kind of hitting that. And then especially when it speeds up like partway through original. Bum, bum. That's just, fucking, again, just nailed it. Did a great job. Great fucking job. Beautiful. Setting that tone, getting you in that mood where it's like you're just thinking about this, you know, this past relationship, this thing that didn't work out, and giving it all of this unnecessary weight for something that is incredibly superficial, that is incredibly mundane. In reality, yes, I would say it is emblematic of a sea change in a person. You'd see it as incredibly surface level, just like, who gives a shit? They got a new cut, they got new hair, or they dyed it a different color. Like, what does it matter? A lot of people do things just because, you know, they like it or it's different, but they get those ideas in their head from outside influences, whether it's from, again, you know, another thing, common point, whether it's from media and art, through the art of suggestion itself, or through other people and personal experiences that lead people to want to express themselves in a different way. And in this case, it's the idea of maturing or growing up and getting out of that brightly colored, rebellious phase and settling into the mundane. And I mean, the song also goes in chronological order of the sequence of events and how it unfolds. It's sort of an exercise in caving to outward pressure from others. You're an adult now, you're grown up. You're not the naive girl that you were before, you're not this or that, so you should cut that fucking hair off. Stop being the way that you are and act differently. Comport yourself. It's kind of like Not Allowed in that you're going to act this way. And in this case, it's just fully giving into and caving to that pressure and comporting yourself and basically killing what it is about you that made you unique. That kind of slow easing into, okay, yeah, I'll cop to this. Fuck it. We'll go with that plan. It kind of lends itself to the idea of like the death of innocence, not in like the weird way. I mean, innocence in this case is the naivete that you have, the freedom, ignorance. At a certain point, you give in a little bit. You do things because you think other people would like you more, or that it makes you more acceptable to other people. And we all go through it to, you know, one extent or another, but it's never good or it's never desirable. I mean, maybe it'll lead to better material conditions for you in the long run, sure, but, you know, it's still kind of sad. Not ideal to look back on and be like, well, damn, I liked my blue hair. I liked the way that I looked. I wish I didn't cut it. I wish I could have stayed who I was when I was some dumb fucking teenager. If I'm not actually freer, maybe I'd feel a little freer, and that might lead me to be more. Wow, that's incredibly sappy. We also think from that perspective of being like a naive teenager, like a kid, you think that growing up and comporting yourselves to this standard of what it is to be a responsible adult, that there is a certain freedom in getting away from your youth and growing up and having all of these new experiences open up and possibilities. And also it's like, you know, liberating or freeing to remove that old part of you. But I mean, the old part of you had a certain carefree attitude that you don't have now, because you do care. You probably care a bit too much about what other people say. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, we're doing that. So this is like considered in this category, but Luis is higher than Lonely Girls. I don't think it's as strong as the rest of the album. It's sonically very pleasing to listen to. I think the piano is incredibly jarring, especially when you hit those big clumps of keys and you like kind of trail off a little bit. The girl's bringing her negative emotions, her pessimism, dragging all of her baggage into every new situation that she gets herself into. So ultimately, whether or not the material factors of her situation change, at the end of the day, she is who she is, and she's going to keep bringing this ankle weight with her everywhere she goes, and it's holding her back from actually experiencing all that there could be. It's not the case of you should just abandon it and leave it and never think about it ever again, or pretend that it didn't happen, even more crucially. But you can't dwell on it. No matter where you go, there you are. Thinking that you can escape the way that you feel and escape your sadness, your negativity, all of the bad shit in your life right now, but just leaving and going somewhere else or going to someone else. That's ultimately a fool's errand, because you are the common denominator in this. You are the reason that this keeps getting brought up and that this keeps being a factor. And you need to work on yourself, and you need to fix, you need to fix something dealing with you. You gotta work through it, because doing this a Sisyphean task of rolling the boulder up the hill and then chasing it, and when it inevitably falls back down for eternity, is not going to get you anywhere. Ooh, baby, I gotta put this in the low end of beautiful. It's unnecessarily grand in its presentation, and a lot of that is from that sample. It hits you immediately with this orchestra, just fucking like, and it's so bombastic, and I live for it. I think it's just fucking awesome. Similar case to Angela, it's bad communication or lack of communication leading to the aggrieved parties just coming to their own conclusions and despairing unnecessarily, feeding into their own or each other's insecurities to the point where nothing will improve, and it's all on a downward trajectory. But they'll keep it up, they'll keep it going. It's not always easy, but it is rather straightforward to just fucking talk to your partner and be honest, or just like ask a question. If you don't do that, then you're going to drift down. Boo. Ooh, okay. It's a good distillation. I mean, it's incredibly literal, and it's also like a great distillation of like a lot of their ethos, and their appeal is the cynicism in their music. It's upholding and reinforcing a toxic idea of like what a dating dynamic should look like, of like fitting in a mold of what a good couple should look like. One person is outwardly, explicitly the cynic and the pessimist, whereas the other person puts on a happy face and is supposed to be the balancing factor, the yin to the yang. All the negative feelings in the relationship come out of me, not from you. And that is essentially a defense mechanism, a cover for their mutual fucking despair and depression that they're feeling, because if two miserable people are out and about and like everyone else has to see it, or they have to constantly deal with it between each other, something's going to break. But if one person puts on the happy face for their partner and the other person is the distillation of that negativity, then it's kind of balances itself out. I don't know, something along those lines. It's incredibly repetitive, but not to the point where I'd say it's annoying. And I wouldn't say that it's mid either, because I think it does have a little more to say.
'Cause if you can't be good, if you can't be good.
It's quirked up for sure, I'll give it that. It definitely stands out on its own in the album, even more so than 7 Days Till Sunday. I don't think that it's bad. I kind of like it. I like it for its weird, quirky feel. Honestly, it kind of sounds like it reminds me of California off of Awaken My Love. Kind of has a funkier feel, and like not funky as in actual funk, but funky as in like, something smells weird about this. It sort of removes you from like the depressing slump that the first half of this album was, and puts you in kind of a little bit of a different mood. It's fine. It's okay. I don't know. I'd have to put it a little higher. There we go.
Make sure that you do it at the right time and day.
I'd say this is probably the weakest one on the album. Brad's voice, doesn't hit generally, but in this one it definitely doesn't do much for me. More about social pressures leading the rebellious and the driven to mellow out and consequently lose the fun, friction, and potential they had in their lives. Unexpected changes and things that happen along the course of that, and I don't know. It's something. It's okay. It's fine. We'll just keep it right here for now. All right, pretty incendiary title. Definitely really dreamy sounding. The little twinkle that you hear in the background kind of seems as though you're seeing stars, or you're just like lost in your own thoughts. I feel like with the chords and the strings and stuff, you're kind of swayed back and forth like a hammock. You're just swinging, sort of an evolution building on the dumb guy trope of not liking women because you think that they're vain or they're stupid or they don't have a clue of what they're getting themselves into, and being judgmental on that front. And through the course of the song, as you go through each verse, realizing that, wait, this is actually incredibly exploitative. And this industry and this system, this pipeline that people are put down and then sometimes put themselves through because they think that it'll lead to a better outcome is incredibly predatory. It's sort of self-reflective, like, why am I toxic like this? Why do I feel this way? Coming to the realization, wait, it's not really their fault. They're just part of this setup. They're part of this system. They're just a cog in the machine. And whether or not they are entirely cognizant of that and they understand what that means or where that comes from is sort of secondary, because regardless, they are just part of it and they don't really have a say in what goes on in their own lives. They're just seen as objects. It's kind of, again, building on objectification like you get in Pretty Boy and Lonely Girl and Blue Hair. It's still kind of dismissive and saying like, well, you know, there's a bit of responsibility that you should take, or like you'd think, oh, how do, you know, people know how the industry works. How could people possibly go into Hollywood and think that it's not, they're not going to be taken advantage of and exploited and like have their fucking pockets run up for everything that they have until they're either broke or they're just like a shell of their former self because of what's happened and what they've had to do. But I mean, people don't sign up for it for that reason. They go into entertainment or they go into whatever field that they might. It might not even have to be Hollywood or acting or entertainment. They go into it because they hope that it's like upward momentum. They think that it's a change that they could make in their lives that, you know, it's like something, I mean, it's something that a lot of people aspire to. And being judgmental about that doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't change anything. It's just putting somebody down who's already in a bad fucking spot, you know? And by the end of it, the narrator ultimately empathizes with their plight and it even put themselves in the shoes of these women, or I guess a woman in this case. A good criticism of the entertainment industry, specifically the film industry, it is incredibly disgusting and awful what goes on, not just the executive level with theft and abuse of underlings, but even at the like lower level. Because even if you're not an actor yourself, if you're not main talent, if you're supporting, if you don't have that kind of protection, or if you don't have other people looking out after you, you are just going to be put through the fucking meat grinder and spit out on the other side. Sacrifice of one's true self for an image, something that's more curated. Sure, people go into it and expect kind of like a rebirth or a new image, a new look. But I think a lot of people would like to believe that they can still be who they are. But, you know, it doesn't always work out. I think it's pretty clever, if not a bit crass, obviously.
Remember. Remember what? Remember what?
The last song on the eponymous album, I have to say, I really like this closer, kind of wavering here and there, but the vibe absolutely matches the same kind of listless and tragic feeling associated with the rest of the album and a lot of what they're talking about, and specifically the titular party girl who in the song, in a drunken or drugged up stupor after a life's worth of just fucking around, eventually finds out. The song is literally just like the last thing that happens to you before the DMT hits your brain and you fucking die and you bleed out or you just croak out your last breath on the. It's very morbid. I think it's clever. I think it's there's a lot of thought and care and attention that went into making that feeling, making it hit that way. That sad, slow realization and mental degradation after like taking stock of a life of excess and hedonistic just indulgence. TV Girl is in no place to tell people that being hedonistic is inherently gross or negative or even a bad thing, but definitely there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. And I think if there's any kind of underlying theme or moral to it, I'd say that that's probably what they want to get at here. There is such a concept of too much of a good thing. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, it's, you know, the girl's responsibility lies within herself at a certain point to not fall into this trap and not be taken for a loop and allow this to happen to herself. But where you live, your environment, your conditions, who you hang out with, everything else. And then on top of any personal problems that ail you or anything, that could lead to this as well. So you don't, again, you exist. This is another thing. This album is basically telling you, you exist in a context. Things do not just happen to you, and you do not just choose to do these things on your own, by your own complete and utter free will and volition. You are advertised to, you are sold an idea, you are peer pressured and convinced or given the suggestion. There's a whole lot of shit that goes into the direction of your life and what happens. And your circumstances and where you live and how you're raised are a big part of that. So while it does focus on the personal aspect of it, in that, yeah, this person is literally dying. The last word is time. It just drifts off and the twinkles fade and eventually it's just silence again. I couldn't get really honestly a better depiction of what death sounds like in a song. At least not, at least not so far. I haven't heard a better one. I don't want to move all of this. We're just going to put it right here, just like we did Lonely Girl. Now that I think about it, that is actually an affront. I'm not going to do that. Song About Me is a groove. This song is kind of a snooze, if I had to be a little more blunt about what I think of the sound. But content-wise, I gotta give it a bump. I gotta give it a bump there. Just being a solid closer, too, definitely brings it up in my book, I think. There is no grand fanfare like in previous albums when it's alluding to death. There's no grand exit. It's just you slowly fade in a room by yourself, alone. Definitely very, very grim, very sad, but very thoughtfully put together, I think. This is just kind of a bog standard intro. I do like all of the little samples in here, references to acid. I think that also it does a good job at easing you into this experience instead of just throwing you into it like a traditional opener would, just like they usually do, just hitting you with all the fucking beats and assaulting your eardrums with this shit that if you went into this thinking that it was going to be like every other TV Reel project, you would be sorely mistaken, and I would honestly argue in a lot of cases be very, very fucking taken aback. I mean, it does a good job, but I'd say that ultimately it's just kind of like mid. Kamikaze, what was that, 2018? God, Eminem fell off. I'm someone who came mostly from like a hip-hop background. My mother listened to West Coast rap in the 90s, and then when I was a kid growing up, that was definitely more of my upbringing, was hip-hop, R&B, and whatever played on like Top 40 radio in the 2000s. Compared to a lot of other hip-hop albums I've listened to, this is kind of a breath of fresh air. I guess you could say it might be experimental in that it's an indie... Is it indie rock or indie pop? I don't give a shit. It's an indie band that doesn't do hip hop, experimenting with it. The only issue, and this is an issue that I will bring up now, only once, and I don't really want to talk about it for the rest of this album, but a lot of this, because of Brad and who he is and background, I'm sure, corny. Corny is another word that I would use for a lot of the bars that go through here. I think that it's all in good fun and it's all kind of like tongue-in-cheek. Brad obviously knows that this is a character that's being played here. And in this case, Kamikaze is just kind of like your bog standard rap intro telling everyone what you're about. It's fine. It's okay. I do want to point out like some choice lines, some choice bars that I found listening through and like taking note more closely. Haters get mad because I get that ass like Kama Sutra. Bust slugs like a salt shaker, and if you think you're in love, I'm the motherfucking heartbreaker. Busting slugs. It's stupid. Okay, this is the first bop. This is the first one, and I gotta say, I love this song so much. I love this song because it is just pure distilled girly pop vibe in a corny rap song. Hyper competent violence, but in like kind of like roundabout way it's justified as well. I describe it as like bubbly. The sample at the beginning, or I mean not the spoken word, piano just mashing the keys to get like higher notes and sounds. I don't know, where it's like it's a not crescendo, it's like an ascending pattern where it's just like a it's really nice. Or kind of like a harp, it's almost like a harp sound as well, but a little more harsh. It sounds pretty crunchy. And I like that too. Not so subtly like fetishizing retaliatory violence and play acting at the whole tough girl with a gun thing. Also kills a potential sexual assaulter. Whereas Kamikaze was more just kind of an introduction of their skills and baseline explanation of who they were. Make It Pop is definitely honing in on the violence aspect of the character and where their motivations come from to commit these competent acts of violence. More than likely from their experiences as we'd probably get to learn, a drug dealer, and also what that entails. If you're on the street, you're trying to make money, and especially if you are a woman at any point in poverty or in a precarious situation, that is going to open up a whole different road of just abuses and exploitation that, I'm sorry, just don't generally occur to men or don't really happen to men at the same kind of frequency at honestly all levels, not just at the lower rungs of society, but in this case that's kind of what it's highlighted as. I didn't point out any lines here. I don't know. I guess I'd say a cockback, Eamon had his jock strap and squeeze. It's lower energy, it's more subdued, it's definitely like kind of chill, easy, like calm listen. Just like a simple fling or like a situationship between two people when they were younger, reminiscing in simpler times and stuff. I think it's really cute. A good line from there. We may have been stupid, but we were never untrue. I just thought you were cool. Meet someone. It doesn't have to be all that complicated bullshit that you're led to believe finding and connecting and loving someone is. It's just, you know, it could just be as simple as me and my wife saw you from across the bar. We thought you were really cool. We're looking for a third. It's a cute little vibe. It's fun. The French sampling in the intro and in the outro and the chorus, I think, is definitely unique. But it's also kind of short. It's the same thing as Make It Pop and Kamikaze. We'll put it like right here. I don't know. It seems fine. It's good. It's okay. It's just like it's catchy too. It's got a good beat. I forgot to mention Make It Pop's samples and beats are fucking, yeah, they go hard. And this one, as a contrast, is not that hard. Couple of lines. It ain't fun unless it hurts some, but y'all couldn't pull the trigger on a squirt gun. This one is yeah, I'm probably gonna put this one lower. I don't like the sample and the chorus. I'm not really, I know what they're going for. Again, it's all like trial and error, like experimenting, doing something different, but I don't know. It's just not that interesting. It's not quite annoying territory. The chorus is definitely approaching that, which is why it's at the bottom, but I don't want to say that it is like unredeemable and completely annoying. Mid in its lyrical content, there's some funny stuff in here, like seems fake but real, like electric eels. It's like, that's just out of context, that's just like a funny thing to hear. It's just kind of boring, kind of self-reflective though, just picking apart their own self-image and bravado, using that framework to critique other people and other hip-hop artists, specifically other rappers, also implicating themselves in that as well. Like, this is all just a tough guy or tough girl, in this case, facade to protect yourself. You know what? We're going to put it above Drift Down, actually. I think that this song is an incredible showing from a first-time effort doing hip-hop and doing more intricate rhyme schemes and stuff and experimenting. It takes the character and finally addresses maybe kind of an underlying question that we've had, is like, well, what does Maddie do? What is the character involved in? Why do they have to be violent? Why do they have to feed into these violent tendencies or incredibly antisocial behaviors and stuff like this? Where does some of the bits of despair come from? Like in I Thought You Were Cool. I mean, even Cut Shot Break Burn, the intro track, is definitely not optimistic or upbeat. In a couple of the samples, it sounds like women are just being assaulted. You wonder, like, well, why are those in there? Like, where's the hint coming from? Does that little note of fucking horror come from? And that this is where it is. Electric Kool-Aid is the best song on the album by far. It's not even close. It is the backstory of the character for the most part, but also looking into what this person, as just one drug dealer basically on the side in this city, in this broader context, what implications that has. What does it mean to be addicted? What does it mean to have this? And like, also, what does that effect of addiction have on not just the customers, but also the person who's selling it? Because for most of the song and for a lot of the other tracks, I mean, it sounds like Maddie's very detached from all of this, but as we've seen from Chocolate Ice Cream Land, that's a face, that's a facade. It's a mask that you put on, putting on the tough guy act, because if you're caught lacking, if you're caught weak, if people find if they smell any hint of weakness, you're done, you're out. Whether you're out of the fucking group, or you're not going to be able to hold it down because no one takes you seriously, or they'll just fucking off you because they see you as a liability, or it's just like, fuck it, who do you think you are? You're a fucking pussy, get out of here. Having to project strength is a big part of that, and I think that's kind of, it's played at here more self-critical of what it is that they're doing, and having that pang of consciousness I'm doing this to people. I'm literally killing people. I'm getting them addicted to this shit, and I make a fucking killing off of it. So I have a monetary incentive to just cause despair, destruction, misery, but I can't walk away from it. So at a certain point, whether or not you at the outset wanted to just ruin people's lives or get them addicted to awful substances and stuff that might have even been trafficked internally, not from outside the country, something that, maybe the feds gave you a little help in here. Whether or not you were in it from the beginning to be a menace, it doesn't matter whether or not they were a hateful piece of shit and a bigot at the beginning. Eventually, when you're in a community long enough that lauds you for being a hateful piece of shit or just being a fucking menace, being a bad person, ultimately you play the part long enough to fit in that you become the part. Another overarching concept here in a lot of their music is destroying yourself to fit in with the rest of society or to fit in with the others, to not feel left out, to not feel like you're a lowly pawn. Like, no, I can move up. When it's like, no, I mean, you can, but what are you giving up? And in this case, you're giving up a bit of your humanity. You're giving up that human decency, that humanity, that connection that you have to other people by just looking at them as customers. I didn't really talk too much about the sound. Honestly, it's kind of underwhelming, but I think that that's a good point of it. It's definitely very moody and dramatic, and like the beat and the sound. I mean, it kind of gives you a feeling that you yourself overdosed and ascended and are just looking down at this piece of shit, basically telling you in the afterlife why they had to do it. I don't care which, I get paid the same. It's a great deconstruction of a fucking tortured drug dealer. Someone who you, as the viewer or as the audience, consider inhuman or like a fucking monster and an animal for what they do, which is dehumanizing others and looking at them as consumers and products themselves to kind of just be pushed and peddled around. This is another you live in a society moment. People aren't just out of nowhere wanting to sell drugs to people to ruin their lives. People don't just become drug dealers because they think it's the best job ever or it's a much more preferable job. People do it because there are so many other factors in their life that make that pretty much one of the only places to go. And eventually you just become cool with it, not that you were cool to start out. I don't really care. Not really. It's like a generic mix of one of their regular songs and like the average TV girl sound. I would almost say that it kind of feels overproduced a little bit. The Pocketful of Posies sample and everything in between, it just seems like, I don't know, it seems a bit overwhelming. Like there's a whole lot going on here. There's a lot of like auditory input, and I just can't really like take it all in and appreciate it individually. I don't know. The song doesn't really do that much for me. Like a failed love story from the girl's perspective, which is fucking groundbreaking. Good line from here: love grows cold like a cup of tea, but it still tastes good on ice. Not bad. Yeah, we'll do this. This seems good to me. War never changes. Whenever I hear this song, I cannot get Hilltop Hoods' Nosebleed section out of my head. The flute in the background, which sounds great, by the way. I love it as a touch. I mean, Hilltop Hoods did that back in like, what, 2006 or something? And I can't, like, that was the first song I heard that had that sample in it, and I can't not get it out of my head whenever I hear this song. It brings me to a good place of thinking about Hilltop Hoods. And also this song, not bad. It's a competent attempt, but again, it's kind of generic in the same way that Kamikaze or Pocketful of Posies are. It's got a great beat. But I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's mostly just like, disses and rap braggadocio, but it's not bad. It's more competent than some of the other stuff on here. A couple good lines here. Y'all got flutes, I got tubas. Y'all got guns, I got bazookas. Y'all got nukes, I got the doomsday device, and I pressed the button twice. Also, this is the first time I think in my entire life that I had ever heard the word sachet be used in any song. Honestly, I think I need to give them credit just for putting the word sachet in here. No, it's a fitting send off, but it's just kind of lacking. I don't really know what else to say about it. But it does bring Maddie into the TV girl canon as being a literal collaborator with Brad in universe, I guess. I don't know. They get into hijinks. Maddie bags a cute barista. Pretty cool. There was a reference to "Today Was a Good Day" in there too, which I thought was really funny. A little homage, I guess. You know what? I'm not gonna be unfair to this last one. Also, that name. Stop it. Aesthetic Delica. I didn't really enjoy this that much. I didn't have anything really to say about it. And this shows my absolute minimal knowledge of music, composition, theory, and what makes a song sound good, or any, like, this gets rid of any notion that I have any kind of objective metric to rate this stuff on, because I'm not a vaporwave guy at the end of the day. I'm not really into I'm not really into what it is that they're going for here. And to avoid overstepping my boundaries entirely and exceeding my already weak qualifications to judge, rate, and critique like music at all, I will just refrain from pretending to know what I'm talking about with regards to the vaporwave bullshit. I will just give an arbitrary rating, a descriptor, and a couple words to describe the mood of each of these songs. I can't tell the songs apart. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Mid to like kind of annoying, honestly. But I'll put it in the bottom here. I don't know what girl's babbling about in this song. It makes me very sleepy. I hope that's not a typo and it's sweet like wine, because that's going to be really embarrassing. Very mid, drunk and sexual, sleep dreamy. Mid, boring, bored. Good, I would say, honestly. I listen to this song, I feel like I am actually just ascending to the moon. Also somber. Oh, this is a longer one. Good. 90s informational VHS tape about natural sciences that they play when the teacher or substitute has a worksheet in lieu of actual education. I am awake now. Okay, this one might just come out of fucking left field here, but I really, really like this song. And I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, first of all, Brad is speaking, but I can't fucking hear him, and I don't need to, because his voice actually sounds kind of good in this for some reason. And the sample just being pitched down and distorted so much, I don't know. I actually really like it. I would say that it's just great. It doesn't really speak too much to me, more it's just like a good vibe, I think. Soft boy love letter. Sort of fuckboyish, which I usually am kind of against, but in this case, kind of cute. Mid. Motivational stoner. I'm being kept awake via constant stimuli. This is pretty good. Very groovy and aesthetic. Chill. Mid to annoying, dreamy, fell asleep again. We'll just put this one in annoying, because I need space. This has Maddie on it again, actually. Back so soon? I think this one's okay. It's alright. It's honestly, it's because Maddie's in it, and she kind of like, you know, she kind of carries it. This is Ratchet with attitude. Thanks, Maddie. Flute in the gooch. Flute in the gooch. Oh yeah, because there's a flute. There's like a. I was like, what the fuck? I wrote it. I think I can hear this in my mind, and I think I definitely said mid lullaby. Eepy. Wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up. Get up. Get up. Wake up. Stop being a sad boy loner. Stop being annoying. It's time to have fucking fun again. Thank God. I really, really like this project. It's just a compilation of things that didn't make the cut for an album that at that point, it was, what, 6 years old? I really, really like a lot of the songs on this. So much good emotion and like powerful. Oh, no, you know what? We're putting it up in great. It's got to be in great. Extremely peppy, dancey, the fucking the horns and the drum. It's just I don't know how you don't get moving when you hear the beat of this fucking song, when you hear the melody in the background. Content-wise, there's not a lot to talk about in this. It's mostly just like lovers trysts and, you know, little generic stuff. It fits in with the French Exit like vignette style of just kind of peeping into small relationships here or there, just kind of apropos of nothing, looking at all the other little bits and pieces and like minutia of people's lives. Bad decisions leading to blah blah blah. Whoever gives a shit, get up and dance. The energy, the peppiness, just it's just fun. It's a fun song. I don't know how you put on that song and not get down, like not have a good time. They're fun. They're good. It's like there's some energy in it. It's like you don't get this from New TV Girl. You don't get this from anything post like Trung era. It's just not. It's not like that, man. It's a little toned down from the intro track, but it's still so energetic. It's whimsical. It's got even like a tropical vibe to it. Flawed mistress embraces her shortcomings and lives despite the outside pressures in her own little world. That makes sense to me. Yeah, sure. Fuck, I don't care. We'll put it right here. I really like it. I don't like it more than Song About Me, but I do definitely. It's got some power. No, you know what? Now that I think about it, Do It To You is on there. We're gonna put it just above Do It To You, or just behind Do It To You. Slowing it down a little bit more here. The beat still hits like really fucking hard and punctuates the mood of uncertainty and wonder that's characteristic of this and a lot of their other songs, and specifically in here. I keep saying this over and over again. If you turn any part of what I've said into a drinking game, you will be in the fucking hospital. It's still quirky, much like the hookup that it's describing. We'll put it like right here, just for simplicity's sake. The first kind of sad girl track here, the one that's a bit more, you know, slowed down and dramatic. I really like this one too. I think that everything on here is just good. It's solid. The fact that it didn't make French Exit is only because French Exit is fucking mopey. No, yeah, I'm going to put it up in beautiful. I think that it's very thoughtful and incredibly sad. She told herself it could have been worse and it almost worked. I mean, it's like it's despairing. It's fucking sad. And I want to say there's a not so subtle allusion to taking one's own life in this because of how fucking hopeless everything feels or how sad it is. And it almost worked, but it didn't. Living with the despair, is that worse or is it better than being dead? Maybe it'll be quick, maybe it'll be painless, or maybe it'll hurt worse than the pain you feel now. The cruel joke behind that is that you won't know if you try it. So what's the use in worrying about it? Very dark, very brutal, honestly, when you consider it in its totality. It seems a little toned down and simpler from the rest, brings it back down to earth a little bit. You were up, now you're down. Especially in mixing and in presentation, it seems incredibly just jumbled and all over the place. It's gotta be somewhere in like... It's not annoying. I wouldn't say that it's annoying. If what they're trying to emphasize is someone with a fucking scatterbrain mental, they definitely got it because, yeah, just all over the place. They're just a complete assault on one's own senses. If it worked in the previous song, then this is the kind of just mental destruction and assault on the senses that goes through your mind. That's part of the Desolation Tango post-breakup. That vivid just flash of everything before you as you weigh your options and make a decision. We're just gonna squeeze that sucker right in there. This was kind of played down a little bit as well, sort of calm. Again, with a tropical vibe, tropical feeling too, as well. Very relaxed. It's like potentially more optimistic in its outlook than some of the other ones, despite how like upbeat and peppy the rest of them are. This one seems a little more so. The guitar sounds good, carries that little, like I said, the tropical sound is very apparent here. It's a cautionary tale. I mean, the title gives it away basically, but ultimately it's hopeless because how you feel is how you feel, and that's going to dictate your actions more so than any kind of appeal to logic. Humans are not completely infallible, 100% rational decision makers all the time. You know, put it under cynical one. That's good. This is another case of something being a bit overproduced or kind of hectic. Really, it hits you, it smacks you in your fucking face, and it's like, honestly, it kind of feels like a lot at first. I didn't really know how to feel about it. It kind of like takes advantage of how energetic everything else is and just kind of runs with it a little too far. I don't know. It seems a little sexually confused, I guess. Kind of repetitive too. Definitely like the weakest track here and nothing that I really glom onto all that much. I might have to go with Annoying because it is a little repetitive. It's a bit too in your face. It just like fucking bitch smacks you and you're supposed to just like sit there and take it like, oh, this is what I said. No, this is, yeah, it's a case of, it feels like another case of overproduction and just throwing all these loud noises at me to get me to feel something. And it doesn't really work. In kind of a reversal of what we're used to from their albums, this is uncharacteristically even more upsetting and sad than a lot of, especially for a closer too. Usually they try to end on maybe like a vaguely optimistic or high note. There's kind of like a silver lining. Even with Death of a Party Girl, the fact that she doesn't have to suffer anymore and that she's, you know, she can finally escape the torment is, like, I guess in a way it's better than just living life as this person is and stay away, just like miserable knowing that your relationship, anything that you've been into, falls apart and the one you love comes back to torment you over and over again. They keep inserting themselves. It keeps popping up. They keep popping up in your mind, or you keep seeing them, or maybe you're still in contact with them and you've been trying to move away from it and you've been trying to get past it for whatever reason. Maybe it was traumatic, or maybe it's just, you know, you're trying to move on and they won't let you. Either they won't, or you won't let yourself. Your own mind and conscience is driving you crazy. It's very quiet, incredibly like soft and light on you. The chords and strings in the background are definitely a good touch and help to fill the void, fill the vacuum, much like this person would prefer to fill the void instead of having it be filled for them. I don't know. No, I think it's good. I think it's good to be great. It's good to be great. This EP, I think, is a fucking banger. The fact that they got Jordana on here to lend her angelic voice to every single track, it's probably one of the collabs of all time, and it definitely warrants a high ranking for most of these songs here. Summer's Over is just a great vibe, great way to open up the album. Again, beachy, that goes for most of the songs in this album, like with the exception of maybe a couple. Jordana on this track is lovely, and the chorus just really gets, oh man, no, I don't know how to, I don't know how to put it into words. Her voice is gorgeous. I love it. Melody's on point. The guitar and like the guitar string, the twanginess, especially after each chorus, is just great. And Summer's Over as a whole, kind of emblematic of building upon that theme of the cyclical nature of life, love, happiness, sadness, and everything coming and going. Summer being over is just the end to one part of the process. It's just one chapter that you go through and move on to the next. I don't know how you can't get in here and not have a good time when you hear this opener. This one leans a hell of a lot more into like the twangy, beachy, tropical sound. I would describe it as like kind of goofy most of the way through until you get to the chorus. They let the sample or whatever it is they have going on back there play out fully instead of cutting it off and repeating it over and over. So it gets a little breathing room, which is good. Otherwise, I don't know, it'd be really, really repetitive and not, I mean, it is kind of repetitive, but it's nothing that I would balk at, because it sounds good. Vocals are lovely, as always, really groovy, but not anything that I wouldn't say it's mid though. I think that's kind of rude. We'll slide it in right here. Why not? So this one might be a little controversial. I love this song so much. It never fails to get me, bobbing my head a little bit, moving back and forth, doing a little two-step because I can't dance. It's great. The beat, the rhythm, the humming mid-verse between lines is, I think, really, I mean, again, her voice is great. I can't emphasize enough. Jordana, they got the perfect person to collab with for this album. She brings so much to the table that I think if she was sort of a regular feature or a regular collaborator on like future projects, all of them probably could go places, man. I'm serious. Like it opens up so much more to have an actual female vocalist on here instead of fucking around with voice and pitch and going into a voice changer and like turning things up a little bit to get a character voice like Maddie Acid, having like an actual female vocalist, it allows for a different, finally, for a different fucking perspective on this, maybe. Every small piece of the song lands. I mean, the sample in the back, Jump the Turnstile, and, you know, just the guy saying that over and over again. I mean, it's basically a young girl with nothing left running away in search of that little missing piece to her life, whether it was a person or something that she used to have that she doesn't anymore, or trying to seek satisfaction or answers in a different place. But you can run away from a place, you can run away from some problems, but you can't run away from you. Is that to say that you are always the problem? But like, everyone has problems. Trying to just run away from them, get on the train for free, run around. I mean, that might be, you know, that might be another problem, is that your deference to any kind of outward social input or adhering to social norms, while I would say generally is like a good thing, not comporting yourself in a way that other people find acceptable isn't just like a, you know, fuck it, I'm sticking it to the man. It's indicative of maybe you as a person in your life and how you treat other people. It's like, well, if someone gives you input, or if someone sets boundaries or rules and you decide to just up and, you know, avoid them or jump over it and do what it is you want, well, maybe that might be an issue that you need to work through. Maybe that's something that's part of you that you might want to consider a little more. I think this is a good spot. It speaks to me in the like thoughts that I've had about thinking that I can just up and leave and escape, like run away from my problems, when in reality the only way that you can overcome those hardships and those trials and tribulations in life is facing them instead of trying to escape them or run away. It's very lovely. I got that dreamy feeling, like you're both in bed together and you're just lying down and your partner's trying to speak to you and tell you all this shit that you're just like, can I please go to sleep? These little like visions and things that are in the words of the song that are thrown at you paint, I would say, a pretty good image. Definitely for a visual mind, it's kind of stark. The really harsh change between the one note to the next one mid-verse between lines, I don't know, it's got like some punch to it a little bit, signaling like a harsh change between each of these scenarios, or between each of the points being made in between the lines. I don't know. It makes you stop and think a little bit, or it helps like punctuate these descriptions, these images, these visions that you're getting. The guitar strums and everything in the back too. Mixing is pretty good. It might feel a little noisy and maybe a bit too echoey. I don't know, a bit too much reverb. But yeah, I think it's good. It's okay. It's just like Jordana's voice just does something to me. I can't explain it. Really carrying this album. Not that it's bad or anything. It's just really, really like, if it wasn't for her, if this was just Brad, I don't think that it would have the same appeal to me. I really, really like what they're going for in the noise and the ticks and the talks, the little moving pieces in the background, the gears grinding, all the little bits and pieces moving behind the scenes. Brad's voice is actually not that bad in this, is what I want to say. His voice actually has sort of an additive effect instead of taking away. It's one of those rare cases where the fact that he is monotone and kind of lacking in emotiveness actually kind of lends itself to the banality of what's being talked about, which is what life is. People get into trouble and they love and they hate and they get back together, and everything just happens all the time in the background. All of these scenarios, and you know, it's just part of the process. It's just life. It's just life, folks. And you and your partner or whoever you're with, or maybe you don't have anybody. Maybe you're a bit insecure thinking that, you know, your life has to be just this grand journey, or you have to involve yourself with somebody else. You have to be part of something grander. You need to do this, this, and this. Otherwise, your life is, you know, a miserable failure. Or you're looking around and you're seeing all these other people enjoying themselves with someone else, or maybe they're by themselves too, but they're getting along. Maybe they're not, but it's nice to have that. The thing is that you'd see that anywhere you go. And if you had what you think that you need, or what society tells you that you need, you'd also still just be part of the rest of the world anyway. You don't need to worry about it. All of this shit, it's commonplace. Again, don't involve yourself with a grand narrative of what's correct or what's right and wrong, or what it is that you need to really focus on. Or like, you know, what everyone else tells you is like super important, and what makes life worth living and all this. Because what makes it worth living is what you value the most and what you put into it. And that's something that you ought to work towards achieving. All this stuff that you see, everything, all these happy people, sad people, it's just part of it. All just part of the process. Again, just part of the cycle. Everyone's going through it just like you are. And they may not show it as much as you do, or vice versa, but it doesn't change that factor. We're all just little grains of sand floating in the ocean, just being carried along by the tide. I had more to say about that than I thought I did. Well, I have a little bit to say. It's not like a groundbreaking concept or anything, or like what's being talked about and what's being discussed. Sound is not necessarily incredibly unique. It's not like super stand out in like the greater scheme of things in their like entire discography, but it sticks out to me a lot, and it hit me a little harder than I was expecting it to. This song is an exercise in, I would say, self-deprecation and like a bit of humility as well, not just in the very literal physical sense of I look better with the lights off because you can't see my body. From my perspective though, Better in the Dark, I relate to it more on the personality level, in that I always fear that what people see in me, or what other people would see in me, is just that little bit that is curated for them that I want them to see, which I think a lot of people do, especially when you're just dating and you're trying to find your footing and see if this person is right, or if everything works, like if you're cool with each other, trying to get to know each other more. People definitely withhold a bit more sensitive information about themselves at the outset, and the more and more you get to know each other, the more you find out about who this person really is. This song is a very good exercise in making yourself vulnerable, and vulnerability being growth in character. You grow and change and improve and become stronger and less vulnerable by making vulnerabilities known to others, because by letting them into your life, by letting them see those things that you used to hide in the dark, by illuminating that part of you, they wouldn't try to break you down. They wouldn't do what it is that you're afraid of them doing. They would tell you, look, I love you for who you are. I value you for you and all of your qualities beneath that. The instrumentation lands, the guitar and the more hard chords and like a little riff, I guess, the beats and drums and everything behind it. I don't know. I love it. I love it. You shouldn't hide who you are. You shouldn't hide your character. You shouldn't hide your physical self or who you are deep down. You can't hide it for long either. People will know, and when you're with someone long enough, they will find out who you are. And that's not something to be afraid of. Discovering yourself is what you do when you go through a relationship. You don't just figure out and understand someone else better. You also understand who you are better. You take some lessons and you learn and you build and grow. Being vulnerable is fine. And in fact, being vulnerable with someone else who you can trust is one of the ways that you grow stronger as a person. And one of the ways that you get over all of those insecurities as well and build.
We're gone.
It's fine. I mean, I think that as an outro, pretty solid. Brad comes back in for the track here with Jordana. Nothing incredibly groundbreaking, I don't think. It honestly sounds like some of their other outros and some of their other slower songs on different projects. It still has that uniquely Summers Over feel and vibe to it. It's about two people getting blasted and trying not to let the flame go out, trying to keep this party alive forever in perpetuity, despite knowing that at some point it has to. You both have to go home and you both have to return, or maybe go your separate ways. You can't keep phoning it in forever, but God damn it, we'll try. It's foolish, it's stupid, it's juvenile, but it's endearing. One thing that drove me fucking insane here listening to this song over and over again, I don't know if it's something to do with my car speakers. I don't know if it's something to do with whatever audio tech that I'm using to listen to my fucking music on the go, but Party's Not Over has the most annoying nails on a chalkboard jingle in the background throughout the entire song. The highs, like the treble, is just way too much for me, and it hurts my fucking ears if I'm listening on anything with, I don't know, maybe my car stereo is fucked up, but it's just, I don't know. That's why I'd have to put it at the bottom of good, because it's just that little thing that personally gets me. I don't really like the little fucking tambourine or whatever the hell you got going on in the back there. Drives me crazy. Okay, home stretch. Let's get this shit. I love Grapes Upon the Vine, and I love all the tracks, most of the tracks on here. It kind of has the same problem that French Exit has, where you start off incredibly strong. This is a fantastic opener. It is a lovely departure from what it is that you're used to hearing from TV Girl, and that almost entirely comes down to the creative changes, a little risk taken here by branching out into a different kind of sample to go towards, which is specifically gospel music. And it is the best decision that they made when making this album, because it fucking sends it into the sky in terms of quality. Taking that risk when you have a formula that works for the most part. And there's definitely no need to break that mold. But they did, and I appreciate that too. And I'll Be Faithful is a great intro track to get you excited. The piano keys that go on in the chorus, the gospel samples, and the soul that you have in this song is just so fucking strong. Being faithful, sticking to your convictions, holding true, despite all that is telling you not to do it. If it's foolish, or it's a fool's errand, or pointless in the end, it doesn't matter. I will stick to you. I will do this, even if you might not even be the best one for me, or I'm not the best one for you. I'll do my best. Banger intro, just like as always. Almost as good as I'll Be Faithful, and as its own opener. Like, if it were the opener, I'd say that it also hits it right out of the fucking park. If you swap their positions, keeps the mood up, and definitely keeps you wanting more, because you're just like, damn, where do I get this funk from? Where do I get this soul? Where do I get this energy, this life that's being breathed into me here? They did a great job on a lot of the songs of this. The beat is fucking hard. Like, the beat is like, doesn't need to go that hard, but it does. And it's a fucking banger. Real upbeat, peppy. If you listen to these first two songs and you do not like them, then you are not going to like the rest of the album, and you have failed the vibe check. And I don't give a shit what you have to say. Something about peering through the veil that one has over their own soul, what they're trying to hide, making a connection, basically falling in love from across the room, love at first sight, that sort of shit. But looking at someone for who they really are, flaws and all. It's the perfect vibe check. If you fucking fail it, then you suck dick, and I don't know what to tell you.
So wrong.
The first two threw you head first into this. It's like, fuck you. You're going to be religious by the end of this experience. And this one is like, all right, take it easy. Let's go a little slow here. Definitely a lot of themes of self-reflection, what's going on in your own life, what's going wrong in your life, taking it in stride, looking forward. The basic, kind of like basic motivational stuff like you might hear in church. Hang on, it'll get better. Instead of it being like a Jesus take the wheel situation, you're more like, Jesus, can you, like, sit on the sidelines and give me traffic directions. It isn't without admissions of emotional weakness or flaws in that you're still using another person as kind of a crutch. The implication being that if you didn't have this person to be like your personal therapist or shoulder to cry on or whatever, that you couldn't get through it, which isn't great, not ideal. Some might argue it's shitty, but at the same time, what are you going to do? It's a little slow, and I think that it's a good little change of pace, but I wouldn't say that it like does all that much to me personally. Oh, now I can't put it at the bottom. That's not fair. I get that you're trying to, go a little easier, go a little slower and smooth it down, but it's... No. Instead of making me feel like I'm being slowly and carefully led through this religious experience, this spiritual awakening, it feels like you brought me in, you psyched me up with all of this soul and gospel at the beginning, and then you slowly start feeding me barbiturates until I'm fucking catatonic. The beat is very boring, and the sample, I have to say, this is the worst of this album. It's so fucking obnoxious in that chorus. It's powerful, it's strong, but it doesn't fit. Someone in a YouTube comment said, tastes like perfectly prepared turkey in my cat's mouth. I can't find a better explanation for just how bland and uninspired this really feels to me. But thankfully, can't get any worse.
It's pain we have to bear.
We'll put it like right here. It's not like bad or annoying or anything, but and also, I like the way it sounds, but ultimately it's just kind of, I don't know. Sample is a little weak. I think they could have done a little more with it. They could have brought a bit more. They do at the end, but too little too late at that point. Brad tries to sing, and it goes about as well as you'd think it does, reminiscing on negatives and sorrows, the killjoys, the bad stuff, but ultimately comes to the conclusion that's just how it happens. This one is definitely like soulful and strong, but the issue is like that's only in the chorus, that's only in the sample. Brad comes in and just fucking kills this. Whatever soulful impact and fucking energy and power there was in the sample and the chorus, Brad just pulls up with a 38 and puts 2 in the back of the head of that concept. It's spoken word for the most part, And it just doesn't, I think that kills any impact that it's supposed to have for me personally. Kind of boring. I'd say that it's uninspired, but there's definitely purpose for it right there.
Nighttime is a fuck up.
Picking it back up a little bit, a little more soul they brought back into this, a little more sauce. Piano, lovely, always welcome. Nice little progression there. The choir, the chorus, and the chanting and singing, very simple, very effective. Two people understanding that their love isn't all that amazing or romantic, nothing grand or righteous, just dumb love and lust for its own sake. Ooh, I might get some looks for this, but this is absolutely in beautiful tier, and I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put it. I love this fucking song because this is what all of that positive nihilism leads to. This is the ultimate logical conclusion, is you just accepting the fact that all of this shit is pointless, you're going to die, and nothing's going to happen, it'll all be over, all of this doesn't matter. But here's the thing, is that there is room for humanity, there is room for fucking up, there is room for loving and lying and hating and, you know, honesty and all this other bullshit in between, because that is part of life. That is part of, like, you can fuck up, you might mess up, and the thing is that you can do all this shit, and by the end of it, it won't matter, because there is no grand reveal. There is no judge. There is no jury. No big grand determination. When you're done, you're done. It's over. And your life and all that it's amounted to and everything that you put all this stock in and, like, will it be worth it? Will it not be? It doesn't matter. It's what you make it. You should be a good person, I'd say. You should try to be, like, not a fucking asshole, of course. But, you know, fucking up and making mistakes and doing all this shit that everyone tells you shouldn't do, I mean, well, that's, like, constricting. And that's limiting yourself. That's limiting, like, what you might, like, what you actually want to do, what you're interested in. Even if it's vice, even if it's hedonistic, even if it's, like, you know, self-destructive in a sense. Like, it's you have, like, it's autonomy. You have the ability, you have the choice to do that. It's, like, liberatory, knowing that that's where, and this is where, like, positive nihilism comes from. None of this shit means anything. It's pointless. Why fucking get, like, why try? Why give a shit? Well, because, like, that is what it's about at the ultimately. It's about nothing. And because it's about nothing, it's about everything. It's what you make it. It comes back around full circle almost. It's depressing. It's existentialism to the nth degree. There's no more existential of a crisis than understanding that you will die and nothing will happen and it will mean nothing. But understanding that, taking that in stride and realizing, well, guess what? That means I can just do whatever the fuck I want. I can be a fuck up. I can be a success. I can take risks and try shit and go through life with the understanding that it was mine and I made something of it. You might as well make something of nothing. Huh? I mean, does that not make sense? I don't know. Maybe, I mean, I'm rambling, I know, but I'd like to think that I'm making a little sense here. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. I mean, it is, like, you know, life is scary and death is scary, sure, but you shouldn't be afraid of it because it comes for all of us. And the most that you can do is live your life and live it to the fullest. And don't, like, you know, I mean, what someone might consider a waste would be like one person's fucking dream. It's a perspective thing. It's an exercise in perspective. It's all punctuated so perfectly. Everything that they've talked about through all of these fucking songs down here about, like, you know, nihilism and lack of, like, sacrifice of care and ridding yourself of all this worldly bullshit and understanding that it's meaningless. It's all superficial. It's all materialistic because in the end, none of it matters. All of that comes back to this. It's all propped up and supported and all built upon or emphasized through an incredibly simple piano and choral composition here. Gonna go up to heaven and meet my Lord. It's one line, but it's very simple, and, like, all the soul and emotion and everything, like, packed into just that one line, in contrast to everything that's being talked about, all of this, like, really depressing, soul-rendering shit, just feeling lost in your life. And also, Brad's voice in this case doesn't detract from it. I think that him being kind of soulless in this actually helps a little bit. Another case of simplicity actually really lends itself to making a memorable experience, something fun. Like a ragtime thing where you can get everybody in a room singing along, even if it's not entirely accessible to everyone. It's catchy. It's definitely catchy too. I like that quality. I gotta put it at the very least up front If I were drunk tonight, I'd probably put it in ethereal, but I'm not, unfortunately. So
I won't mind the fire.
this is some soulful shit right here. This is some really good shit right here. Just after Night in Question. Maybe not as peppy, but definitely has a lot of fucking strong and like soulful energy in it once you get the sample coming in. Very simple, just like Big Black Void, but you know, a little bit more to it there. The keys feels very empty. You're in a void and you're filling it with your love for Jesus. Or I guess in this case, more of your disdain for the holiness of the rest of the world, telling you that you're a fucking sinner and you're a piece of shit, and because you do this and that, you're going to hell. I like it because it's, yeah, it is that. It's pure spite. It's just like, fuck it. If we're going to hell, we might as well enjoy the flame. None of us are saints. We are not the righteous few that will make it. So we might as well just embrace that fact. Kind of like embracing death at a certain point. Why be shamed? Why be put down? We're all sinners together. It's spitting in the face of religious piety and holiness and all that, like blaspheming. I like the point where it's basically just turns into every step you take, I'll be watching you. He holds on to it for like a good entire verse. And it works. It's not as annoying as I thought it would be, and it's not really like, it doesn't take anything away. I think it definitely adds to it. Just layering all this shit on, this and this and this and this, not helping his case whatsoever if God were to be real and were to judge him. But just, again, just pure spite. You love it when artistic passion is just filled, like driven by pure spite, because it makes pretty good shit if you could believe it. Having like spite being a motivator in a lot of what you do is not necessarily, not a lot, but you know, in a lot of creative pursuits, definitely can get you a long way. It's a great driver. Not like revenge, not jealousy, not hatred, but just spite. You tell me I can't do this? Fuck you. Yes, I can. You know what? We'll put it right here because this is a cute little section that it just so happens to fit in perfectly. Picks it up a little bit from Fire, speeds things up a little bit, more energy. Lovely beat. Sampling sounds more like a typical TV girl song. It definitely hits more of that broad appeal, and I like that. Just kind of putting something a bit more standard in there. Light, legit attempts at singing and harmonizing here and there and humming along with it. And I appreciate it because he actually does a pretty good job on this one. Let's be more realistic here. We'll put it right there. That's another cute little spot that it fits in. It's good. You give 100%. You don't give a little bit. You give it your all. Otherwise, it's not really worth it to you, is it? If you can just phone it in and give it anything less than what you absolutely can do, the best that you can do. Close isn't good enough. Just phoning it in isn't going to make it any better. It's just going to make it seem more like a slog. You're going to resent it even more. You're going to hate whatever it is that you're doing. You should want to put in like the most effort that you can, that you'd be willing to, that's reasonable. And you might not get a whole hell of a lot more out of it by doing so, but it won't feel like an obligation, or it won't feel like something that you're just putting up with. Sample is on point. Nothing is right. Nothing is right in our lives. This spirituality and this sort of mysticism and the like this opiate of the masses that we take is not going to save us. Horizons are dwindling. Things are going wrong. Nothing is right anymore, but we still must persist and push on. Same thing, kind of schlocky, but I do like the sound of this a hell of a lot more than some of the other tracks on here. The angelic singing, the godly sample that they have on there too. It's just, oh man, soul central. And finally,
Said it's alright.
I have to say, once again, out of spite, it's fucking Up Here and Beautiful. One of their best closers, second best in this case, only beaten by Angela here. I love it. I love the way it sounds. The sample, I would think that I would hate it at first. I thought that it would be annoying, but it's not. It really isn't. I think that, and especially since they switch it up partway through, there's ups and downs, there's peaks and valleys here, and it's not just like one track the whole time. Brad's flow on it too, I think, is pretty good. He does kind of, get a little saucy with it. He does do a little bit of singing. There is a little soul there that's coming out of him at the end of it. Finally, all of what we do is in vain, and it means nothing. We don't have answers to what comes after all of this. We can pessimistically or like nihilistically think that God is dead or that there is no God and that this is all meaningless, but we won't know necessarily. It's all about the love of the game. We don't know, we don't have the answers, but we'll keep fucking going. Okay, here we are. That is a tier list. Definitely more even of a distribution than I thought it would be. All that's left now is to rank the projects. Some of these I do not like and I don't really have a connection to, but I won't say that they're bad because I don't think anything that they've put out is objectively bad. There you go. Cool is just like, that's like your whatever. I can live with it. I can live without it. Pretty good. This is more of a joke between me and my boy because he came to me and one day and he was like, I want to start doing like reviews for music and rankings and I want to have a scale, good, pretty good, and great, but which one should go where? And I just said, yes. This is not a great way to describe albums. Again, I am not qualified to do any of this. I am a fucking idiot here. So this is your D for disappointing. This is your C for cool. This is your B for pretty good. This is your A for, I don't know, that one's like, that one's A-OK. And then pretty good is like, that's like nice. And then fantastic is that's your S rank right there. That's that fucking top shelf. There you go. We'll do, yeah, we got little squigglies in here. If it weren't for I Don't Care, I'd say that it's probably like a really solid, really competent introduction. We'll just go with cool for right now. It's nothing like super amazing. It's not incredibly groundbreaking. It's fine. It's competent. Whatever. Good job. Probably a similar situation to TV Girl, although I would have to say it definitely would end up on the higher end of cool, regardless of everything else here. Lizzie Come Back to Life is what really takes it a step above and what makes it just better than the debut album, for sure. Because, God, they fucking hit it on the head with something that intense and kind of just... Wake up, bitch! Get up and dance! Good, competent. Also, their sound, they start to find themselves a little more, because with debut, they were going for a little something different with debut. They didn't have it figured out now. Once you get to Benny and the Jets, their sound starts to take form, and you're seeing like where they're going to end up going. I think it's, yeah, it's fine. It's good. It's kind of unfair considering that it's only 2 songs, and there's not much to go off of here. But Sarah in the Sauna is nice. Girls Like Me is just kind of, you know, whatever, really sad boy, like depressing. I'd say it's probably like the lower end of cool. EP beats it out because it has a little more interesting stuff on it, like On Land and If You Want It. I'd venture to say that this is definitely a top tier effort by them early on. It is their best solo EP. I'll say that. Definitely their best solo EP. Incredibly well put together all throughout, the themes and notes, the story beats that you're trying to hit. If Benny and the Jets was like where they found their footing, Lonely Women is when they really just fully leaned into it and got exactly what they were hoping for out of it, which is that angsty sound, that mix of upbeats, and with Trung especially, very emotional and over dramatic, but in a good way. I don't know how to explain it. Just like they found that vibe, and then also mixing that, or contrasting that rather, with Brad's kind of emotional detachment. I mean, My Girlfriend, for fuck's sake, awesome. Laura, fantastic. Trung's voice on this, with the exception of, the only thing that brings it down is Easier to Cry, where he's just sort of struggling on that one. Other than that, I'd say that definitely deserves to be an A tier. A good album. I gotta say, I really like the sound. I like the energy. I love Trung on here as well. He just, I mean, honestly, he carries so much of early TV Girl. Like, a lot of this down here is, I'd say, just general vibes, and overall as a cohesive project, just not really having a focus, just being like finding their footing. And that's the reason why it's kind of, it's whatever, it's kind of mid. This is like their first big attempt at a full-length project with all that you could do with that, all the possibilities. And I think they nailed it. I think they did a great job. The themes and ideas of cycles and that detachment, that nihilism, really starting to take hold, especially when Brad is on the track trying to tell you about how cool it is to be just some fucking hipster shithead, deriving all of their meaning and worth and value from this like boutique lifestyle that they live, this like image that they want to cultivate, not necessarily because you're an interesting or decent person. Embracing death is another part of this. And also like the creative decisions in the album. Every song fades into the next one, and the album fades into itself at the end and just restarts the cycle all over again. Do I think that it's like super competent to the point where I'd put it in A tier? No, I can't really say that, because what we have coming up, I don't know if I'd say that I like it that much to put it up there, because there's a couple stinkers, like there's a couple tracks in there that fall, but also there's like 3 skit tracks. It doesn't ruin it. It's part of the experience, and I think that overall it's there. And you know, the bangers that it has, like Wonder Who She's Kissing Now and On the Fence, those are really fun and good, but everything else is kind of you could lose me with some of it. Even if it's like good in its content, I don't know if it's as much of a fucking bop or a vibe, or that it has that kind of vibe and quality that some of the other later projects would have. But I'd say it's pretty good. You're gonna get on me for this. I think it's just like whatever. I'll say this: it is definitely their least interesting EP style release. I don't find it all that interesting. I think the case of Natalie Wood is very interesting. Someone should get up with fucking Christopher Walken and see what he's up to. Is he trying to walk his way out of a jail cell? More like Christopher walking away from 25 to life. And then Like We Planned is just, I don't know, sort of annoying. And it's really just carried by Natalie Wood, and even then that's not too interesting of a, I mean, the sound is on point. They knew what they were doing there, but otherwise it's just kind of, I don't know. Okay, here's where I get myself in trouble. We're gonna sit this right here for a second while you let me explain myself. I think that French Exit is the weakest of their 4 main full-length releases. I think that it is incredibly consistent. I think it's very focused. I think that by this point, they found their sound. They found what they were going for. A basic drum beat and reverb and echoey vocals over a sample from 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago that nobody's fucking heard of. They definitely got their formula, and they got it straight. And French Exit is a fantastic album. If you are trying to get someone into TV Girl and you want them to see like the more melodramatic, like soft, moody side of it, this is the album you get them into. This is where that goes. In comparison, in relation to their other works and everything else that we still have to go through here, I think that it's the weakest one. It's very strong opener, a fucking beautiful closer, an amazing closer. But the mid part of the album is just like one big valley that I have to get through of songs that kind of sound very similar to me and sort of like flow together so much. They like, I forget, oh, okay, we switched songs now. Oh, okay, this is different from the thing I was just listening to. It just seems to flow and like coagulate all together, and it doesn't really stand out to me that much. I like what it's going for. I like the echoiness. I like the fact that you feel like you're just in a void, and all of these visions and images of people's lives appearing in your head, or you're being placed in these little moments in people's lives. I like that. It's very personal. It's very intimate. And I know that's what they're going for here, but it's not all that, man. It's just not all that. Yes, it's good. It's definitely a good work. It's definitely a great album, but I just want to tell you off the rip, I don't think it's as good as the rest of them. Case in point, I mean it when I say Who Really Cares is almost a perfect album. It is literally just Till You Tell Me to Leave, and maybe like Heaven is a Bedroom not being a fantastic, perfect closeout like Angela was. But other than that, it is their most consistent album. If you want to show someone what TV Girl is all about, and you want to get someone into it, you give them this album and you tell them, you don't even need to listen to it in order. You don't even need to take it as a whole. Just skip around and you'll probably find something that you like. It is the definition of that fucking sad girl TikTok vibe that for some reason is just so, I don't know. It appeals to everyone. It's not specifically curated for a certain type of person. It has a little bit of something for everybody, and I also just like the dreaminess of it. It is the most dreamy dreamscape. I'm lost in this void of fucking lavender clouds and fuchsia raindrops, and I'm wading through like this pastel blue sea of mixed emotions and feelings from all of these different relationships that I'm being thrust into, what I'm seeing here. And I mean, even like you could take it as this album is basically just one guy's experience or one set of experiences from a certain group of people, or like in this case, like a one person and several partners and stuff. I like to think of this album as all of the visions, all of the emotions and feelings, the memories of the past, your fuck ups, your successes and triumphs, everything flashing before your eyes as you take one last little gasp and you fucking die. This is DMT hitting your brain, and it fucking feels so good. I can't not put it on and not have a good time. It's a very overconfident showing from an indie band that I mean, and also like again, not allowed. Do the act like you never met me. Taking what's not yours. All of these songs that put them on the map are from this album, and not necessarily that popularity is indicative of overall quality or that it makes it better. But there's a reason why these songs were the ones that attracted most people's attention and got them onto the scene more so than any other album. And I'm not trying to say like if you found this through TikTok, like that makes it less, or if you found this through this or that social media that makes it less. I don't think that diminishes the quality or diminishes what I can pull or glean from the art and from what they're doing. Also, this album cover, iconic, beautiful, lovely. It's great. It's fantastic. But it's not their best. Death of a Party Girl. I think it's their best album. I think it's the best of their mainline releases. And I think that it is an incredibly competent showing. And if Grapes Upon the Vine hadn't come out, it would have been, I think, the perfect send-off for them as a band and for what creative pursuits, what message they were trying to put out. Everything that they're trying to build on. And their themes, the central ideas that they're trying to, like all the morals of these stories, if you can call them that, if you can pull something from that, like all that they're trying to say, it culminates in this. I had a couple of schizophrenic ramblings and writings about what these albums mean, these three in particular, French Exit, Who Really Cares, and Death of a Party Girl. These albums exist on their own, but as a collective, as a trio, and then eventually as a four-piece. I don't know what they could all collectively mean and like what they say. For French Exit, it's people's individual experiences and relationships. You know, I said it before and I'll say it again, and this will be the last time. It seems like vignettes. It's peeks into individual stories, not necessarily connected by anything, but all that tell the same broad point of love being messy and uncertain, and people not being 100% decipherable, human emotion being an enigma, stuff like that. The folly of falling in love, the fallibility of one's emotions and what's right and wrong and common sense and all that, and how that falls apart. And understanding that this is what makes life worth living. And all that uncertainty and insecurity and stuff, that's just part of being human. It's incredibly down to earth for that reason. And I describe French Exit as life. For Who Really Cares, I describe it as people navigating cultural expectations, both external and internalized in their romantic pursuits, and also understanding these things within a broader societal window of acceptability. Who Really Cares takes French Exit's point of view, looking at things as individual experiences, and then combines them into a romantic journey, ups and downs, peaks and valleys. And I like to think of it as not just like peaks into unconnected stories. I like to see it as one contiguous point of view of this one person, all that he's seen, all that he's done, the people that he's been with, these experiences that he's had. And I describe this album as the death of that person and them reflecting on all of these things and all of these emotions, these feelings that they had as they're dying, basically, which is why everything is so dreamy, why everything feels like so listless and floaty. This is what's rattling on in your head. This is why everything feels so empty. It's because it's leaving you. All of this is like what you have to reflect on as you go out. Which is why, like, for Heaven is a Bedroom, it's the moment of death. And in your own mind, in your own head, and how you perceive of it, with all of these things leading up to that, it's like one big last hoorah. It's grand fanfare, but it's also a bit of humility as well. Dignity in your own death, understanding that, look, I fucked up, I made mistakes, I have no delusions that I led like a righteous life or anything, but I understand that that's what I made. I made the most of it, and I fucked up, but it is what it is. And I think that that's, pretty beautiful. I describe the album as death. But for Death of a Party Girl, it's probably the penultimate expression of these feelings. It's more of people as lovers and as individuals themselves, not just them as a couple, but also them as individual people, finding futility in asserting themselves in a harsh and cynical world, in a universe that is just very unwelcoming to human affect, human emotion, everything. Party Girl is almost a third person like overlook on all of these dynamics playing out at once and taking them for what they are, which is just meaningless and lost in a world that is inhospitable to those emotions, to those feelings. People judging you, looking down on you, feeling like you have to be the cynical one and put on this face, put on this facade. Commentary about attractiveness being a stand-in for who you are as an actual human being, as a fucking person. And superseding any of that, because what does it matter? You live in this world, and in this world, what matters is what you look like, how you comport yourself, all of these little small details, like these the little affects, not for you as a person. And the other thing is why I say French Exit is about life, in that, you know, it's the only ending of these that stands out, in that it doesn't feel like the end to something. It feels hopeful. It feels like, that's why I love Angela so much, because it feels like there is hope for the future, and that, you know, life continues to go on. Whereas the other two albums, these other two, are incredibly despairing, because at the end, it like, and in Party Girl, it literally ends with a fucking a death, the demise of the eponymous Party Girl, living the life that she thought that she could maintain, or one that brought her happiness, or any of this. It all comes back around. That we only get to see it as detached observers, people kind of voyeuristically looking in on this other person's experience. As it is criticized in the album broadly of other people judging you and looking upon you, we're doing the same thing. We're looking at this person who lived the life that they wanted to, and we're lamenting that they lived it this way and that they died not necessarily on their own terms, that they kind of felt forced this way or pushed into it. So in a sense, we're kind of being hypocritical as well. I don't know. There's a lot. I feel like there's so much to glean from that I can't really just get out right now because I'm tired. I mean, it ends with no fanfare. There is no grand reveal. It's not even like TV Shuffle, where at the end it's similar to Who Really Cares, where it's a grand build up and then it all ends and you're like, you know, you accept your death, you accept your fate and everything that you've done. We don't have any of that. These two views of death are hopeful. With here, we don't get any of that. We take death as just like being a part of this cruel world, and we see it as for what it really is, which is just like a life being snubbed out and going away. No fanfare, nothing grand. She lived the life that she wanted to. She had all of it, and from her perspective, maybe it was worth something, but from all the rest of us, it's a fucking tragedy. I don't know. There's so much to glean from that. French Exit being life, Who Really Cares being death, Party Girl is, in a sense, it's an afterlife, because once you die, the only thing that like matters is how others perceived you and how other people looked upon you as like a human, not necessarily a person, as a life with feelings and emotions, but as like the sum of these little bits and pieces, these parts. And it's appropriate how in these two, it's more focused on relationships and individuals and stuff. And you see that reflected in the album art, whereas here, it's a procession of people following one another, going with the flow. All unique, differently colored, you know, all these different attributes that make them stand out, but ultimately falling in line. Man, maybe I should be a critic. I'd also describe the sound of the album as well, which is the thing I haven't talked about yet. For French Exit, again, I take all of these together. I'd say that that's a dark expanse, as emphasized by like the fact that it's monochrome and they're standing within a void, and then the feeling of you just kind of floating through nothingness, getting peeks into people's lives, and then just kind of whisking past them further. Who Really Cares is an inviting, like warm dreamscape, that one that you go to, again, as your brain is dying, where you kind of live in your own memories for a little bit for comfort. And then for Party Girl, maybe it isn't the end. We move on. I describe it as, especially with the sound, the kind of beachy tropical feel, the fact that I can't get over that it's such a like beachy album to me, even though it's definitely like not something super happy and uplifting and vibrant for some portions of it, especially in the latter half. I still describe the setting of the album being a seashore in purgatory. You're on the beach, giant mountain behind you, this big thing that you have to overcome to get to maybe true enlightenment or salvation or whatever, but you can't help but sit on the edge of the island and look out in the water and think about all of this. Something in there for everyone. Also, it fucking slaps. Pretty Boy, Blue Hair, and Drift Down. Okay, spent too much time on that one. Or we're gonna roll through these next ones. I'd say that it's pretty good, but I can't put it above TV Shuffle because while I do genuinely appreciate the attempt at, switching it up, the genuine attempt at doing something different, like making a rap album. There's a couple stinkers in there that don't really land, that kind of throw it all off, and I think that the sound and the feeling, the attitude is definitely there, what they were going for, that sassiness and the sincerity with some of what's being told. Like, I thought you were cool, Electric Kool-Aid, very, I think, powerful in some sense. But overall, I can't really, I don't know, it doesn't really hit the same way as something like TV Shuffle does, especially not as their mainline releases. It's not, this is a one-off. It's the definition of a one-off, where it has some of those qualities and some of those like regular TV Girl qualities seep in, but ultimately it was kind of an experimentation, and I think they did a good job. Also, Brad had a couple of really funny lines in here too, so I think that was nice. I almost put this above French Exit itself. The Outtakes comp album, I almost put above the album that these songs were not included in, purely because it is so fucking catchy. A lot of these songs on here, the emotion, the tone, and like the mood, you can't not listen to this, especially the first two tracks, and not just be up and about. I almost put it above it, but I realized that French Exit is a much more fleshed out project and is very consistent in what it's going for there, in its sound and everything. And again, Angela's on there, so I can't necessarily put the Outtakes over the album itself. And also, there's a couple songs in Outtakes that I'm not really too big on, like Desolation Tango. It's literally just the vibe overall, I think, is better. I'd say it's better than Lonely Women. Smokes in Bed, Laura, and My Girlfriend is up there. But in terms of just pure vibing, I gotta say the Outtakes are just better for that. And it's fun. It's fucking fun, dude. The energy is all there. The energy and like the vindictiveness too, and to some points, like the fucking accusatory nature. It's a mix of different emotions. It's not like French Exit where it's just like sorrow and sad and this and that. But I'd have to say I still like French Exit more than the Outtakes. Obviously, it's an Outtakes album, not going to be nearly as full fleshed out. And it's also, I don't have the same kind of analytical mind for it because it's not as pointed as their mainline releases, as their four main releases. You knew it was going to be down here. I'd be surprised if most of you have even listened to this fucking album. You probably thought it wasn't even TV Girl, but it is. And it's whatever. I am not built for this. I am not really like a vaporwave or whatever the fuck this is supposed to be guy. I was not born in, nor did I grow up during the 80s or the 90s and have all of that media and stuff, that sound be fed to me, those feelings and emotions from that time and the broader culture. That is not me, okay? I was born in the 2000s. My nostalgia trap is a fucking lo-fi set over 2000s cartoons or something. I'm just not about it. I can't really get into it that much. If I thought that the midsection of French Exit and Grapes Upon the Vine just fell together for the most part and didn't really like stand out that much, this whole album just flows together. It's literally No Looking and Vapor Season that stick out to me whatsoever. It's a one-off, sure. I appreciate the attempt, but it's Speaking of sad girl shit, the only one of their albums that actually has a fucking woman in it, and they killed it. I'd say, oh man, I might even put this in S. Can't say so. But I can put it right beneath it. Summer's Over is, for like their first big name like collab project, they fucking killed it. Just hit it right out of the park. It's their best small project that they had, and it is so beautiful. in every aspect. The sound and the feeling, the emotions that it brings out of me. I mean, Jordana's voice. Again, here's the thing, if you haven't listened to any of Jordana's like solo stuff, you need to, because she is a fantastic artist and she has so much talent. It's nice to have a fucking real singer with this band again. Bring back Trung. It feels very emotionally vulnerable. And it's kind of a breath of fresh air too, because it's almost like allowing you to be more vulnerable in your feelings and just laying yourself out there. I don't know. It was willing to go in a different direction. It was willing to tap into feelings that I don't think that a lot of their other albums kind of like get out of me per se. And I mean, Better in the Dark, I'm not ashamed to admit I've cried listening to Better in the Dark, and it was really nice. And it was kind of like sort of warming a little bit. And Jump the Turnstile is just nice and fun. I guess another way I can describe it is it's very cozy. Probably like their coziest of their albums, because it doesn't really hit you that much in their face. Her voice is so soothing and calming. It makes everything kind of nice and inviting. It's not threatening whatsoever. It's very warm, which is ironic because summer's over. Whereas some of their other albums are a mix and a range of emotions and have their ups and downs, their peaks and valleys, and can sort of blindside you a little bit with all these different perspectives and experiences. Summer's Over is incredibly consistent, almost more so than French Exit is, honestly. But French Exit, just Angela, man, I'm telling you, Angela really helped get this album over a lot of different humps here. If it were slightly longer, if they had a few more tracks on this, keeping that same feeling, that same vibe to it, I'd say it might even be better than French Exit. But as it stands, I don't really feel comfortable putting it any higher. It's a nice, calm experience. Very sweet. And finally, to end this fucking shit show off, you know I gotta do it to him. This has to get me in trouble. If nothing else that I've said gets me in trouble, this one has to get me in trouble. Everyone fucking hates this album. I've heard this said before multiple times. This is their worst album. Grapes Upon the Vine is their worst album. Did you even listen to it? Did you even give a shit to like listen to the fucking thing and have an opinion other than what everyone else on TikTok is telling you? This album fucking slaps. It's so good. It's like so... There's like, okay, it's like it had the balls to go in a completely different direction, break the mold, get like a different style going here, and they killed it. They fucking killed it. They nailed it with this. I mean, okay, maybe nailed it is a little too far. Higher Ground still exists. One of These Mornings still exists. There are stinkers on this album. It is not perfect. And I'd say that in terms of consistency, French Exit might be a bit more consistent and might have more of a like general vibe that people could latch onto and see as maybe more easily comprehensible. It's more easily glommed onto. But that doesn't mean that it's good necessarily. I think that Grapes Upon the Vine is better than French Exit because there's just so much more emotion. There's more range of emotion, I feel like. The samples, the gospel sound it is fantastic. I'm surprised they didn't go here like sooner. It's just, it's so awesome. This rounds out the 4-piece here of their main albums, their main full-length LPs here. French Exit is Life. Who Really Cares is Death. Death of a Party Girl is The Afterlife. And Grapes Upon the Vine I would describe as Never-Ending Eternity. French Exit is individuals and small little disconnected stories and experiences. Who Really Cares is the recollection of one's life, the ultimate moment of self-reflection and pleasure, the moment before you leave this world, how you felt about what you did and the choices you made, the mistakes you made, everything, and not regretting it and just taking it in stride. And Party Girl is people existing and slogging through everyday existence in society and being judged and passing judgment on to others as well, but thinking that they're not, like thinking that they're unique, thinking that they're apart from this when they really aren't. We're all part of this. We all fall in line. We all have the same flaws here. We're all imperfect and have the same kind of vain impulses that drive us to do the things that we do. Basically, love and relationships and romance as it exists, as it stands in society broadly. and our perceptions of it, how they're tainted, how they are engaged with, and how we're persuaded into believing this or that or thinking this way or that way. And then Grapes Upon the Vine is somehow even more existential and fucking mind destroying. It's navigating the meaning of love and honestly the meaning of life in a godless universe. It is the final stepping stone in nihilistic, specifically like positive nihilistic belief, is like, okay, well, if life doesn't mean anything and if love doesn't really have a meaning to it, or there's no point in any of it, then why do we do it? What can I do? What is their meaning? Like, what do I do now? What do I make of myself in a meaningless world? I mean, look, do they hit on all of these bits and pieces perfectly? Do they hit it home as much as they could? Like, do they flesh it out as much as they could? No, they don't. And I wish that they did a little bit more here. But for what it is, it's a real solid attempt. For this, I describe the setting as amongst the pulpit, judged by the other lost souls that surround you in eternity, whether that is you still in purgatory but surrounded and with company, or if it's you floating listlessly in a black void, or in the kingdom of heaven, even in death and in afterlife and in like what is supposed to be heaven, you still find yourself being judged and you still find yourself being hung up on all of these little things here and there. I don't know. There's a lot to read into here. I'm not going to get into all of this right now. This is what I think. Hey, Edit Boy here in post. If you made it this far, congrats, you get a cookie. I promise this video is basically over at this point. I just figured I'd pop in at the very end to explain just a few things that I sort of talked about, but didn't really have all my thoughts together on since, I didn't really write a script. If I had to summarize the main characteristics that define TV Girls music broadly, everything that you see here, it would be concept of positive nihilism, the idea that life is meaningless, there are no rules, there is no grand plan, there is no correct or incorrect way to live, and because life is meaningless, you find your own meaning and create it for yourself. Dictate your own path. Don't try and fall in line. Be your own person. In a godless universe, there is no direction, so you have to carve your own path. Number two, a crisis of romanticism. That being that people are trying to break away from their preconceived notions or their informed idea of what love and romance is, defined by media, social media specifically, and art and entertainment, and trying to dictate once again for themselves and taking autonomy over the situation and being realistic about their expectations, knowing that love isn't always perfect. Love isn't always what it's like in the movies or what you see on TV or what you hear in music. Sometimes it's messy, and that's more normal than the thing that you're exposed to constantly and told is prim and proper or correct, or what you should want, or what is ideal, because ideal varies from person to person. It's not one size fits all. And number three, unreliable narration, which is the fact that the people who are creating this culture, who are creating these depictions or who are telling these stories, can tell you pretty much any angle that they want. They can withhold sensitive information, they can withhold the truth from you, and really the truth is what they say it is. They don't have to tell you what's actually happening, and you don't really have any other choice but to take their word for it, because they only give you one perspective. In love, there's always two sides to a story. Basically, exercise cynicism, exercise skepticism, don't believe everything that you're told, don't just take people's word for it. This person could be trying to manipulate you. All of these things coalesce into what I think is the main appeal of TV Girl broadly, why people listen to them, despite all the criticisms of it being sort of samey and formulaic, the idea that it's kind of manipulative, which, if again, unreliable narration, I would say, yes, that is true. And the big criticism that I've heard is that it's actually misogynistic, but that's a completely different conversation that I'm not going to get into right now, nor do I have the authority to really speak on that. All of this comes together to form the main idea, the main appeal, the draw, what it is that people listen to it for. And it's that no matter how hard it is to find love, no matter how taxing and stressful it is to be in love, and no matter how sad and tragic it can be to fall out of love, we want it all the same. We see all that it brings us. We see the negativity, we see the fighting, all the messiness, the drama, the heartbreak, the hurt that you go through, and you might not see it again, and you might have had it once in your life and it won't come back to you, and you're chasing that feeling. And we see the tragedy in all of that. We see the despair, but despite all of that, we still want it, because feeling something is better than feeling nothing at all. Now, that doesn't apply to you if you don't want to be in a relationship, or you're ace, or you don't have romantic or sexual attraction to people, and you just want to focus on yourself, and you just think that TV Girl is a bop. That's completely fair. This isn't supposed to be a one-size-fits-all definitive breakdown of what it's about. This is just my read on the situation. And I could be completely wrong. I could be maybe kind of close. Maybe you have a better idea. Maybe we could build on this. I don't know. That's why I made this video. I want to hear what you have to say, because I am not good at media criticism, clearly. Maybe we can build upon those things. So yeah. 3 main tenets: positive nihilism, crisis of romanticism, unreliable narration. Those come together to form the main appeal, which is that love is messy, but we want it because we want to feel something in a day and age when it feels like we're alone, it feels like we're separate, it feels like we're more apart from not just like partners, but just from people generally than we ever have been before, despite being so connected and so wired in through media than we ever have been before. So yeah, I think back to me in the past. Time to end the video. All right, there you go. This is TV Girl's entire discography ranked. I'm okay with this right now. I might tweak it a little bit. If something comes out in the future, if they have any more releases in the future, I will come back and revise this and maybe make a small update. But as it stands, this is my TV Girl tier list. And this is how I feel about their albums. All right. Leave me alone.